When 12-year-old Kai Musk stepped off the school bus at NASA's Johnson Space Center, he carried more than just his notebook filled with rocket drawings. Hidden in his phone were weeks of secret messages from someone who understood his deepest fear, that his brilliant father would be happier without a disappointing son. What happened next would expose a decades-long conspiracy that had torn apart hundreds of families, and reveal a truth so heartbreaking it would change how the world understood the pressure placed on gifted children. But first, Kai had to survive a field trip that was never supposed to end with him coming home. The yellow school bus sat in the parking lot of Crosswinds Academy like a giant sleeping beast. Fog rolled across the Austin, Texas morning, making everything look gray and quiet. Kai Musk pressed his face against his bedroom window on the second floor. His breath made a small cloud on the glass. Today was the day he had been waiting for. The field trip to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. But his stomach felt twisted up like a pretzel. "Kai, bus leaves in 10 minutes. His mom Grimes called from downstairs. Kai grabbed his worn black notebook from his desk. The cover was bent, and the pages were filled with his drawings. Rockets shooting toward Mars, space stations spinning in the dark, cities with glass domes under alien skies. He tucked the notebook into his backpack next to his lunch. His phone buzzed. A text message from his dad, Elon. "Have fun at NASA today. Remember what I taught you about rocket engines. Make me proud." Kai stared at the message. His dad was probably in some important meeting about SpaceX right now. Always working. Always thinking about the future. Always expecting Kai to be just as smart and focused as he was. But Kai wasn't like his dad. Not really. He ran downstairs and grabbed his jacket. His mom was waiting by the door with his lunch bag. "You excited, honey?" she asked, smoothing down his messy brown hair. "Yeah," Kai said, but his voice sounded flat even to himself. "You sure you're feeling okay? You look pale." "I'm fine, Mom." But he wasn't fine. His chest felt tight. His hands were shaking a little. The same feeling he got before big tests or when his dad asked him about his grades. Like he couldn't breathe right. The bus honked outside. "That's your ride," his mom said. She kissed his forehead. "Love you. Have the best day ever." Kai walked outside into the foggy morning. The bus doors whooshed open. Mrs. Chen, his 7th grade teacher, smiled at him from the top of the steps. "Good morning, Kai. Ready to see some real rockets?" "Yes, Mrs. Chen," he said, climbing aboard. The bus was already half full of his classmates. They were all talking and laughing. Kai looked for an empty seat. Most kids were sitting with their friends. Kai didn't really have friends. Not close ones, anyway. He found a seat near the middle and slid in next to the window. Behind him, he could hear Parkus and Tyler talking. "I heard Kai's dad is worth like $200 billion, Marcus whispered. "My dad says Elon Musk is either a genius or crazy," Tyler replied. "Maybe both," Marcus laughed. Kai slumped lower in his seat. He opened his notebook and started drawing a new rocket design. Sleeker than the ones his dad built. This one had curved wings and landing pods that looked like flower petals. "Wow, that's really good." Kai looked up. Sarah Martinez was standing in the aisle next to his seat. She was one of the smartest kids in class. Usually she sat with the popular girls. "Thanks," Kai mumbled. "Can I sit here? Everywhere else is taken." Kai nodded and moved his backpack. Sarah sat down and looked at his drawing. "Is that for the Mars mission?" she asked. "Just something I made up," Kai said. "It's not real or anything. It looks real to me. You're really talented." Kai felt his cheeks get warm. Nobody usually paid attention to his drawings. Not even his dad. His dad was always too busy looking at real rockets. The bus engine started with a loud rumble. Mrs. Chen stood up in the front and clapped her hands. "Attention, everyone. We're about to leave for NASA's Johnson Space Center. It's going to be a 2-hour drive, so get comfortable. Remember the rules. Stay with your buddy, listen to the tour guides, and be respectful." She looked around the bus. Who doesn't have a buddy yet? A few hands went up, including Kai's. Mrs. Chen paired him with Marcus, even though Kai would rather go alone. "Great. Now does everyone have their permission slips and lunch money?" A chorus of yes. Mrs. Chen filled the bus. The bus lurched forward and they were moving. Kai watched Austin fade away through his window. Tall buildings became smaller houses. Houses became farmland. The fog was starting to lift, showing patches of blue sky. Sarah pulled out a book about astronauts. "Are you going to be an astronaut like your dad wants you?" she asked. Kai's stomach twisted again. "I don't know, maybe." "What do you want to be?" That was the question Kai hated most. Everyone always expected him to say astronaut or engineer or rocket scientist. Something big and important like his dad. "I don't know," he said again. The truth was, sometimes Kai thought it would be nice to be normal, to have a dad who coached Little League instead of trying to get humans to Mars. To be just regular Kai, not Elon Musk's son. His phone buzzed again. Another message, but not from his dad this time. It was from a number he didn't recognize. "Hope you have fun today, Kai. Remember what we talked about. You deserve to be happy." Kai's heart started beating faster. He quickly deleted the message and put his phone away. Sarah was reading her book and didn't notice. For the past few weeks, Kai had been getting messages from someone who understood him. Someone who knew what it was like to have parents who expected too much. The person said their name was Dr. Morrison, and they were a counselor who helped kids like Kai. Dr. Morrison said that smart kids often felt trapped by their parents' dreams, that sometimes the best thing for everyone was to take a break, to go somewhere peaceful where kids could just be kids. Kai had never told anyone about the messages. Not his mom, not his dad, not even his therapist. Dr. Morrison said it was important to keep their talks private until Kai was ready. The bus hit a bump and Kai's notebook slipped off his lap. Sarah helped him pick it up. "You have so many drawings in here," she said, flipping through pages. "Look at this one. It's like a whole city on Mars." Kai looked at the drawing she was pointing to. He had drawn it last month after his dad gave him another lecture about working harder in math class. In the picture, kids were playing in a park under a glass dome. No parents around. No one telling them to study harder or be smarter or change the world. "It's just pretend," Kai said, taking the notebook back. "Sometimes pretend is better than real," Sarah said quietly. The bus rolled down the highway toward Houston. Kai stared out the window and thought about Dr. Morrison's messages. About how nice it would be to go somewhere where nobody knew who his dad was. Where nobody expected him to be a genius. His phone buzzed one more time. "Today is a big day, Kai. Are you ready?" Kai looked around the bus. Everyone was laughing and talking about the rockets they would see. Mrs. Chen was reading a magazine in the front. The bus driver had the radio playing softly. Nobody was paying attention to him. Kai typed back, "I think so." The response came quickly. "Good. Remember, this is your choice. No one can make you do anything you don't want to do." Kai deleted both messages and put his phone away again. His hands were shaking more now. The tight feeling in his chest was getting worse. "You okay?" Sarah asked. "You look sick." "Just car sick," Kai lied. But he wasn't car sick. He was scared, and excited, and confused. All at the same time. Through the window he could see a road sign. Houston, 45. Soon they would be at NASA. Soon he would see the rockets his dad helped design. Soon he would have to make the biggest decision of his 12-year-old life. Kai opened his notebook to a blank page and started drawing again. This time he drew a boy walking away from a rocket ship. The boy was small and the rocket was huge behind him. Above the picture he wrote in careful letters, "Sometimes the best way to help is to lead." Sarah was reading her book again and didn't see what he wrote. The bus kept rolling toward Houston. Toward NASA. Toward the moment that would change everything. Kai closed his notebook and leaned his head against the cool window. In his pocket, his phone stayed quiet. But he knew Dr. Morrison was waiting. Waiting to help him make the choice that would finally make everyone happy. Even if it meant he would never see his family again. The NASA Johnson Space Center looked like something from the future. White buildings stretched across the landscape under the clear Texas sky. Kai pressed his face to the bus window as they drove through the security gates. "Welcome to Mission Control," Mrs. Chen announced as the bus parked. "Remember to stay with your buddies." Kai's stomach churned as the other kids filed off the bus. Marcus, his assigned buddy, was already talking to Tyler about the gift shop. Nobody noticed when Kai hung back, walking slowly behind the group. The visitor center was huge. Models of rockets hung from the ceiling. Interactive displays blinked and hummed all around them. A group of NASA employees in blue shirts waited to give them the tour. "Good morning, Crosswinds Academy," said a tall woman with gray hair. "I'm Dr. Williams, and I'll be your guide today. Who's excited to see where we plan missions to Mars?" Every hand shot up except Kai's. He stood at the back of the group, clutching his notebook. Dr. Williams led them through the exhibits. She talked about the Artemis program and the International Space Station. She showed them real spacesuits and moon rocks. The other kids asked lots of questions and took pictures. Kai just followed along quietly. His phone buzzed once in his pocket, but he didn't check it. Not yet. And now, Dr. Williams said, "We're going to see Mission Control, the actual room where NASA talks to astronauts in space." The group cheered and started walking toward a long hallway. Kai felt dizzy. The walls seemed to be closing in. His chest felt tight again, like someone was squeezing his lungs. "Mrs. Chen?" Kai raised his hand. His voice came out squeaky. "Yes, Kai. Can I use the bathroom? I don't feel good." Mrs. Chen looked concerned. "Of course, honey. Do you need Marcus to go with you?" "No, I'm okay. I'll catch up." Mrs. Chen pointed down a hallway. "The restrooms are that way. Take your time. We'll be in mission control for at least 30 minutes. Kai nodded and walked away from the group. He could hear Dr. Williams starting to explain how mission control worked, but the voices got quieter with each step. The bathroom was empty and quiet. Kai locked himself in a stall and pulled out his phone. 3 new messages. "Are you ready, Kai? I'm waiting in the parking lot, like we planned. Blue Honda Civic. Remember, this is about your happiness. Your parents will understand someday." Kai's hands shook as he typed back, "I'm scared." The response came immediately. "That's normal. Big changes are always scary. But you're brave, Kai. Braver than you know." Kai sat on the toilet seat and opened his notebook. He turned to the very last page where he had written a letter 3 days ago. A letter he never planned to send. "Dear Dad, I know you want me to be like you. Smart and important, and someone who changes the world. But I'm not. I try really hard, but I always disappoint you. I see it in your face when you look at my grades. I hear it in your voice when you talk about my future. I love you and Mom so much. That's why I have to go away. You can focus on getting people to Mars without worrying about me. You can be proud of your work instead of embarrassed by your son. Maybe someday when I'm older and better I can come back. But right now, I'm just making everyone sad. Love, Kai. P.S. Don't blame yourself. This is my choice." Kai tore the letter out of his notebook and folded it carefully. He left it on the bathroom counter where someone would find it later. He looked at himself in the mirror. His face was pale, and his eyes looked too big. He didn't look like Elon Musk's son. He just looked like a scared kid. His phone buzzed again. "It's time, Kai. I'll take care of you. You won't have to pretend to be someone you're not anymore." Kai took a deep breath and walked out of the bathroom. The hallway was empty. He could hear Mrs. Chen's voice coming from Mission Control, far away now. Instead of going back to his class, Kai walked toward the exit signs. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. A security guard at the front desk was reading a newspaper and didn't look up. The automatic doors whooshed open and Kai stepped outside into the warm Houston air. The parking lot stretched out in front of him. Rows and rows of cars baking in the sun. There, a blue Honda Civic parked near the edge of the lot, just like Dr. Morrison had said. Kai started walking toward it. Each step felt heavy, like his shoes were made of concrete. Part of him wanted to turn around and run back to Mrs. Chen, but a bigger part of him felt relief. No more disappointing his dad. No more feeling stupid in math class. No more pretending to care about rockets and Mars when all he wanted was to draw pictures and maybe learn about animals or art or something normal. He was halfway across the parking lot when his phone rang. Not a text this time. An actual call. The caller ID said Dad. Kai stared at the phone. His dad never called during the day unless something was wrong. Maybe he already knew somehow. Maybe he was calling to say goodbye. The phone kept ringing. Kai let it go to voicemail. He was almost to the blue car now. He could see a man inside wearing sunglasses. The man saw Kai coming and started the engine. Kai's phone rang again. Dad, again. This time, Kai answered. Hi, Dad. Hey, buddy. His dad's voice sounded happy and excited. "I just got out of a meeting and wanted to check on your NASA trip. Are you having fun? Did you see the rocket engines yet?" Kai stopped walking. He was only 20 feet from the blue car now. It's good, Dad. That's great. I was thinking, when you get home tonight, maybe we could work on that model rocket we started last month. I know I've been too busy lately, but I want to finish it with you." Kai felt tears starting in his eyes. "You do?" "Of course. And Kai, I'm really proud of you, son. I know I don't say it enough, but you're an amazing kid, smart and creative and kind. I'm the luckiest dad in the world." The words hit Kai like a punch in the chest. He had never heard his dad talk like that before. "Dad." "Oh, hold on a second, buddy. My assistant is telling me something." Kai heard muffled voices on the other end of the phone. His dad talking to someone else. The blue car's engine was still running. "Kai? You still there?" "Yeah, Dad. Listen, I have to jump into another meeting, but let's definitely work on that rocket tonight, okay? I love you. I love you too, Dad." The phone went quiet. Kai stood in the parking lot, holding his phone, tears streaming down his face. The man in the blue car rolled down his window. "Kai, come on. We need to go now." Kai looked at the car. Then he looked back at the NASA building where his class was learning about space exploration, where Mrs. Chen was probably starting to wonder where he was. His phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Morrison. "Don't let them guilt you into staying. This is your chance for freedom." But his dad's words kept echoing in his head. "I'm proud of you. You're an amazing kid. I'm the luckiest dad in the world." Maybe his dad did love him. Maybe he wasn't as much of a disappointment as he thought. "Kai." The man in the car sounded impatient. "We have to leave right now." Kai took one step toward the car. Then he stopped. Something felt wrong. Really wrong. He turned around and started running back toward the NASA building as fast as he could. "Kai, wait!" the man shouted behind him. But Kai didn't stop. He ran through the parking lot, through the front doors, past the security guard, down the hallway toward Mission Control. He had to find Mrs. Chen. He had to tell someone about Dr. Morrison and the messages and the plan to disappear. But when he burst through the doors of Mission Control, the room was empty. A janitor mopping the floor looked up at him. "You okay, son? You look upset." Where is everybody?" Kai gasped. "The school group? They left about 10 minutes ago. Back to their bus, I think." Kai ran outside to the bus loading area. The yellow bus was gone. The parking lot where it had been was empty, except for oil stains on the asphalt. He pulled out his phone and called Mrs. Chen's number. It went straight to voicemail. "This is Mrs. Chen. I can't take your call right now." Kai hung up and tried again. Still voicemail. Panic rose in his throat. The blue car was gone too. Dr. Morrison was gone. His class was gone. He was alone. Kai sat down on the curb and buried his face in his hands. What had he done? What was he supposed to do now? His phone rang. Mrs. Chen's number. "Hello?" Kai answered quickly. "Kai. Oh my God, where are you? We've been looking everywhere." I'm at NASA. In the parking lot." "Thank goodness. Stay exactly where you are. We're coming back for you right now." "Are you hurt? What happened?" Kai didn't know how to answer. How could he explain about Dr. Morrison and the messages and the plan disappear? How could he tell her he had almost gotten into a stranger's car? "I got lost," he said finally. "I'm sorry." "It's okay, honey. Just stay put. We'll be there in 5 minutes." Kai hung up and waited. The Texas sun beat down on his head. His notebook was still clutched in his hands. But the letter he had written was gone, still sitting on the bathroom counter for someone to find. When the yellow bus pulled up, Mrs. Chen jumped out before it even stopped moving. She ran over and hugged him tight. "Oh, Kai, we were so worried. When we couldn't find you after Mission Control, I thought..." She shook her head. "Never mind. You're safe. That's all that matters." The other kids stared at him through the bus windows as he climbed aboard. Some looked worried. Others looked annoyed that they had to come back for him. "Where were you?" Marcus asked as Kai sat down. "I told you. I got lost." But Sarah, sitting across the aisle, was looking at him strangely, like she knew there was more to the story. As the bus pulled away from NASA, Kai looked back through the rear window. The parking lot was empty now. No blue car. No Dr. Morris. But somehow, Kai felt like this wasn't over. His phone buzzed one last time.
I'm disappointed in you, Kai. But don't worry. There will be other chances.
Kai quickly deleted the message and turned off his phone. Outside the window, Houston faded away as they headed back to Austin. Back to his real life. Back to his family. But the feeling in his stomach told him that Dr. Morrison wasn't going to give up that easily. 3 days after the NASA trip, Kai sat in his room, staring at his homework. Math problems swam on the page like tiny black bugs. He couldn't focus on anything since coming home. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped. But it was never Dr. Morrison. Just normal texts from classmates about assignments or his mom asking if he wanted a snack. The scary part was that Kai almost missed the messages. Dr. Morrison had made him feel special, like someone finally understood how hard it was to be Elon Musk's son. A knock on his door made him jump. "Come in," Kai called. His dad poked his head inside. "Hey, buddy, how's the homework going?" "Fine," Kai lied. Elon stepped into the room. He looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes and his hair messier than usual. He had been working late every night this week on some new SpaceX project. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something," his dad said, sitting on the edge of Kai's bed. "Mrs. Chen called me today." Kai's stomach dropped. "About what?" "She said you seemed upset on the field trip, and that you've been quiet in class this week." Elon studied Kai's face. "Is everything okay? Are kids at school bothering you?" "No, Dad, everything's fine." But Elon didn't look convinced. "You know you can tell me anything, right? Even if you think it might upset me." Kai wanted to tell him about Dr. Morrison. About the messages and the plan to disappear. About how sometimes he felt like he was drowning under the weight of being special. Instead, he just nodded. "I know." "Good." Elon stood up. "Oh, and I cleared my schedule tomorrow night. Want to work on that model rocket? Just you and me?" "Really?" Kai felt a small spark of happiness. His dad never cleared his schedule for anything. "Really? I've been thinking about what you said on the phone during your trip. About how proud I am of you. I don't say it enough, Kai. You're an incredible kid. And I want to spend more time showing you that." After his dad left, Kai felt a little better. Maybe things could be different. Maybe he didn't need Dr. Morrison's help after all. His phone buzzed. The message was from a number he didn't recognize. But he knew who it was from. "I see your father is trying harder." "That's nice. But it won't last, Kai. People don't really change." Kai quickly deleted the message. But his hands were shaking. Another buzz. "He's only being nice because he feels guilty. Soon he'll be too busy again. You'll remember why you wanted to leave." Delete. "I'm still here when you're ready. Other kids need my help too. Kids just like you." Delete. Kai turned off his phone and shoved it in his desk drawer. His heart was pounding. How did Dr. Morrison know about his conversation with his dad? Had he been watching somehow? The next evening, Kai and his father sat at the kitchen table with the model rocket spread out between them. It was a Saturn V replica, just like the rockets that took astronauts to the moon. "Hand me that tiny screwdriver," Elon said, squinting at the instruction manual. Kai found the tool and watched his dad carefully attach the nose cone. For once, his father's phone was in the other room. No interruptions. No urgent calls about Mars missions or electric cars. "You know," Elon said without looking up, "when I was your age, I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere either." Kai blinked in surprise. "You did?" "Oh yeah. I was obsessed with computers and rockets, and all the other kids thought I was weird. I spent most of my time alone, reading science fiction books and taking apart electronics. But you were probably really good at school." Elon laughed. "Actually, I was pretty average at most things. I just worked really hard at the stuff I cared about." He looked up at Kai. "The point is, being different isn't a bad thing. It's what makes you special." They worked together in comfortable silence for a while. Kai helped paint the tiny details while his dad assembled the engine. "Dad?" Kai said quietly. "Yeah? Do you ever wish I was more like you, better at math and science and stuff?" Elon stopped working and looked directly at his son. "Kai, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be like you. You're creative and kind and thoughtful in ways I never was at your age. Those are amazing qualities. But what if I don't want to work at SpaceX or go to Mars? Then you don't have to. You can be an artist or a teacher or a veterinarian or anything else that makes you happy. My job as your dad is to support whatever you choose, not to force you into my dreams. Kai felt tears starting in his eyes. Really? Really? Elon reached over and squeezed his son's shoulder. I love you exactly as you are, Kai. Don't ever forget that. They finished the rocket just before bedtime. It sat on Kai's desk, white and silver and perfect. A symbol of working together instead of Kai feeling like he had to live up to impossible standards. That night, Kai slept better than he had in weeks. But his phone, still hidden in the desk drawer, buzzed with messages he didn't see. Time is running out, Kai. I have other children who need me. Children whose parents don't pretend to care. Last chance. Tomorrow after school. Same plan. Don't disappoint me like you disappointed your father. The next morning, Kai felt lighter as he got ready for school. The conversation with his dad had changed something, made him feel less alone. He pulled his phone out of the drawer to check the time and saw the missed messages. His good mood vibrated instantly. Dr. Morrison was getting impatient and angry. Kai deleted the messages, but the words stuck in his mind. Don't disappoint me like you disappointed your father. At school, Kai couldn't concentrate. During lunch, he sat alone at a corner table, picking at his sandwich. Sarah Martinez walked over with her tray. Mind if I sit? She asked. Kai shook his head. Sarah was one of the few kids who was nice to him without wanting something in return. You've seemed really stressed lately, she said, unwrapping her apple. Everything okay at home? Yeah, everything's fine. You know, my mom is a counselor. She says sometimes kids carry heavy feelings that don't belong to them. Kai looked up. What do you mean? Like when parents have big expectations or problems, kids sometimes think it's their fault. But it's not. Sarah took a bite of her apple. Adult stress belongs to adults, not kids. But what if the kid really is the problem? Kids are never the problem, Kai. Trust me. The bell rang for afternoon classes. As they threw away their lunch trash, Sarah said, if you ever need to talk to someone who isn't your parents, my mom knows lots of good counselors. Real ones with offices and licenses and stuff. Thanks, Kai said. But he was thinking about Dr. Morrison's messages. About how he claimed to be a counselor too. During his last class of the day, Kai's phone vibrated in his backpack. Then again, and again. When the final bell rang, he checked his messages in the hallway. Blue Honda Civic. School parking lot. Right now. Don't think. Just come. Other kids are counting on you. This is your last chance, Kai. I won't ask again. Kai stood frozen in the crowded hallway. Kids pushed past him, heading for buses and cars. His hands were shaking as he stared at the messages. Part of him wanted to run to the parking lot. Dr. Morrison was right. Things with his dad would probably go back to normal soon. The rocket building was nice, but it was just one night. How long before his father got busy again and forgot about spending time together? But another part of him remembered his dad's words. I love you exactly as you are. And Sarah's words. Kids are never the problem. Kai made his decision. Instead of going to the parking lot, he walked to the main office. Hi, Mrs. Peterson, he said to the secretary. Can I use your phone? It's an emergency. Of course, honey. What's wrong? I need to call the police. Mrs. Peterson's eyes went wide. Are you hurt? What happened? There's a man trying to get kids to go with him. He's been sending me messages for weeks. 20 minutes later, the school parking lot was full of police cars. Officer Janet Rodriguez knelt down next to Kai in the principal's office. You did the right thing by telling us, she said gently. Can you show me the messages? Kai pulled out his phone, but when he opened his texts, they were all gone. Every single message from Dr. Morrison had been deleted. They were here, Kai said, panic rising in his voice. I swear they were here. It's okay, Officer Rodriguez said. People who do bad things are very good at covering their tracks. But we believe you. What if he comes back? What if he tries to get other kids? We're going to do everything we can to find him. You gave us a good description of the car and what he looks like. We'll catch him. When Kai's parents arrived at the school, his mom was crying and his dad looked pale and scared. Why didn't you tell us? his mom asked, hugging him tight. I thought I could handle it myself, Kai whispered. And I was scared you'd be disappointed in me for almost going with him. Disappointed? His dad knelt down in front of him. Kai, I'm proud of you for making the right choice. That took incredible courage. But I almost went with him, Dad. I almost left you guys. But you didn't. When it mattered most, you chose your family. That's what counts. Officer Rodriguez explained that they would monitor Kai's phone and email for any new contact attempts. They would also alert other schools in the area about Dr. Morrison. One more thing, she said. Has he mentioned other children? Other kids he's been talking to? Kai nodded. He said there were other kids like me. Kids who needed his help. The officer's expression grew serious. We're gonna need you to help us figure out who those children might be. Will you do that? Yes, Kai said without hesitation. I want to help stop him. That night, as Kai's family sat together in the living room, Elon put his arm around his son. You know what this means, right? He said. What? No more field trips for a while. Kai laughed for the first time in days. That's okay. I'd rather build rockets with you anyway. Good, because I cleared my calendar for the whole weekend. I thought we could start on a bigger project. Really? What kind of project? Elon smiled. How about a treehouse? With windows for stargazing and shelves for all your drawings? That sounds perfect, Dad. But even as Kai felt safe in his father's arms, he couldn't shake the feeling that Dr. Morin was still out there, still looking for lonely kids to trick with promises of understanding and escape. And somewhere in the city, other children might be getting messages just like the ones Kai had received. Children who might not be as lucky as he was. Children who might not have families willing to fight for them. The thought kept Kai awake long into the night, staring at the model rocket on his desk and wondering how many kids were out there feeling just as lost and scared as he had been. 2 weeks passed with no sign of Dr. Morrison. Kai started to feel normal again. He and his dad had built the treehouse frame, and every evening they worked on it together. His mom brought them lemonade and helped paint the walls bright blue like the sky. But on a rainy Thursday afternoon, Officer Rodriguez called Kai's family to the police station. We found something, she said, leading them into a small room with gray walls and plastic chairs. On the table was a laptop computer and a stack of papers. Kai recognized the blue Honda Civic in one of the photos. We caught Dr. Morrison yesterday, Officer Rodriguez said. His real name is James Morrison, and he's been doing this for a very long time. Kai's mom reached over and squeezed his hand. The good news is, he can't hurt any more children. The bad news is, Officer Rodriguez looked sad. We found evidence that he's been talking to lots of kids online. Kids just like you, Kai. She opened the laptop and turned it toward them. The screen showed a website that looked like a chat room. Kai could see usernames like Science Kid 2010, and Lonely Genius, and Perfect Child. These are all children who felt pressured by their families to be perfect. Officer Rodriguez explained. Morrison found them on forums for gifted kids and homework help sites. Kai's dad leaned forward. How many children are we talking about? At least 50 over the past 10 years. Maybe more. The number hit Kai like a punch in the stomach. 50 kids who felt just like he did, scared and alone and desperate to escape. Did he take any of them? Kai asked quietly. Officer Rodriguez nodded. We think so. We found plane tickets and fake IDs. Records of children who disappeared during school trips or family vacations. She pulled out a folder full of photos. Missing kids with sad eyes and forced smiles. Kai recognized the look, the same expression he saw in his own school pictures. This is Marcus Blackwater, Officer Rodriguez said, pointing to a photo of a dark-haired boy about Kai's age. He disappeared from a camping trip in Montana 20 years ago. His father is still looking for him. She showed them more photos. Emma Chen from California, David Rodriguez from Texas, Alex Kim from New York, all missing. All brilliant kids from successful families. We think Morrison convinced them to run away with him. Officer Rodriguez continued. He told them he could give them new lives where nobody expected them to be perfect. Kai stared at the photos. These kids looked so normal, so much like him. What happens to them? His mom asked. When they go with him. We don't know yet. Morrison isn't talking. But we found addresses in Alaska and Montana. Remote places where someone could hide for a long time. Kai's dad put his arm around his son's shoulders. Kai, I need you to know this isn't your fault. Morrison is a sick man who tricks children when they're feeling vulnerable. But I almost went with him, Kai whispered. Twice. But you didn't. You made the right choice both times. Officer Rodriguez leaned forward. Kai, we need your help. Morrison had special ways of talking kids that made them trust him. You spent more time communicating with him than anyone we've found so far. What do you want me to do? Help us understand how he thinks. What he said to make you feel like leaving was a good idea. Kai thought back to those first messages. How Morrison had seemed to understand exactly how he felt. He said my parents would be happier without me. Kai said slowly that I was holding them back from doing important work. His mom made a small crying sound. He said really smart kids often feel trapped by their parents' expectations. That sometimes the kindest thing to do was to disappear so everyone could be free. Did he ever mention other children? Yeah. He said there were other kids like me who needed help. Kids who felt like failures even though they were smart. Officer Rodriguez wrote everything down. This is very helpful, Kai. You're going to help us find these missing children. But as they drove home from the police station, Kai felt sick to his stomach. All those kids in the photos looked so hopeful, like they thought Morrison was going to save them. Instead, he had probably made their lives worse. That night at dinner, Kai pushed his food around his plate without eating. Talk to us, buddy, his dad said. What's going through your head? I keep thinking about those other kids. What if they're trapped somewhere? What if they want to come home but can't? The police are going to find them, his mom said gently. But what if it's too late? What if they've been gone so long they forgot about their families? Elon set down his fork and looked directly at his son. Kai, can I tell you something that might help? Kai nodded. When I was building my first company, I failed over and over again. I made terrible mistakes, lost money, disappointed people who believed in me. But you didn't give up. That's right. And you know why? Because every failure taught me something important. Every mistake made me better at helping people the next time. I don't understand. What you went through with Morrison was terrible. But now you can help other kids avoid the same trap. Your experience, as awful as it was, might save lives. Kai thought about this as he got ready for bed. Maybe his dad was right. Maybe almost getting tricked by Morrison wasn't just something bad that happened to him. Maybe it was something he could use to help others. The next day at school, Sarah Martinez sat with him at lunch again. You look different, she said, unwrapping her sandwich. Different how? Older, I guess, like you figured something out. Kai told her about Morrison and the missing children. Sarah listened with wide eyes. That's so scary, she said, but also kind of amazing that you helped catch him. I didn't really catch him, I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do. After school, Kai asked his dad if they could work on the treehouse. But instead of hammering boards, they just sat on the platform they had built, looking out at the trees. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think those missing kids will ever come home? Elon was quiet for a long time. I don't know, Kai, some of them might. Others might have been gone so long that home doesn't feel real anymore. That's really sad. It is. But you know what gives me hope? What? Kids like you. Kids who are brave enough to ask for help when they need it. Kids who care about other people even when they're scared. Kai leaned against his dad's shoulder. I want to help find them. I know you do. And I think you will, in your own way. That weekend, Officer Rodriguez called again. They had found one of the addresses from Morrison's computer, an abandoned cabin in the woods of northern Montana. We're sending a team up there tomorrow, she told Kai's family over the phone. If we find anything, you'll be the first to know. Kai spent the rest of the weekend thinking about Marcus Blackwater, the boy who disappeared 20 years ago. He wondered if Marcus was still alive, if he remembered his family, if he wanted to come home. On Sunday night, as Kai was finishing his homework, his phone buzzed with a text. For a split second, his heart jumped. But it was just Sarah, asking about their science project. Morrison was in jail. The messages were over. Kai was safe. But somewhere out there, other children might still be trapped. Children who had believed Morrison's lies about parents being better off without them. Children who needed someone to find them and bring them home. As Kai turned off his light and looked at the model rocket on his desk, he made a promise to himself. Someday, when he was older, he would help look for missing kids. He would use his experience with Morrison to spot the warning signs and help other families stay together. It wasn't the future his dad had imagined for him. It wasn't about rockets or Mars or changing the world through technology, but it was important work that mattered. And for the first time in his life, Kai felt like he knew exactly who he wanted to become. Outside his window, the treehouse stood half-finished in the moonlight. Tomorrow, he and his dad would add the roof. Soon, it would be a place where Kai could draw and think and dream about helping other kids find their way home. Just like he had found his way back to his own family when it mattered most. The phone rang downstairs. Kai heard his dad answer it, then his voice getting excited. "Kai," his father called, "come down here. Officer Rodriguez has news." Kai jumped out of bed and ran downstairs. His parents were both standing in the kitchen, and his dad was holding the phone on speaker. "Tell him what you told us," his mom said, wiping tears from her eyes. Officer Rodriguez's voice crackled through the speaker. "Kai, we found the cabin in Montana, and we found 3 children who had been missing for over a year. Are they okay?" Kai asked breathlessly. "They're going to be. Thanks to your help, we knew what to look for. You helped bring these kids home, Kai." As his parents hugged him tight, Kai felt something he had never experienced before. Not pride in being smart or special, but pride in doing something that truly mattered. 3 kids were going home to their families tonight because he had been brave enough to tell the truth. And somewhere in Montana, maybe more children were waiting to be found. In the mountains of Montana, Tom Blackwater sat on his front porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. 20 years had passed since his son Marcus vanished during a camping trip, but Tom still looked for him every single day. His phone rang, startling him from his thoughts. Tom Blackwater speaking. "Mr. Blackwater, this is Agent Sarah Martinez with the FBI. I'm calling about your son Marcus." Tom's heart stopped. After 20 years of silence, those words hit him like lightning. Did you find him? We might have information that could help. Can you come to our field office in Missoula tomorrow? There's someone I'd like you to meet." Tom barely slept that night. He had never stopped searching for Marcus, even when the police gave up, even when his wife left because the sadness was too much, even when everyone told him to move on. Marcus had been 13 when he disappeared from Glacier National Park. They were on a father-son camping trip, something they did every summer. Marcus loved the wilderness almost as much as Tom did. But Marcus was also struggling that summer. He was the smartest kid in his school, but he felt like he could never live up to Tom's reputation as a park ranger and wilderness expert. Tom had won awards for his rescue work. Everyone expected Marcus to be just as brave and skilled in the outdoors. "I'm not like you, Dad," Marcus had said the night before he vanished. "I'll never be good enough at this stuff." "You don't have to be like me," Tom had replied. "You just have to be yourself." But Marcus didn't believe him. The next morning, Marcus left their campsite to get water from the stream. He never came back. Search teams looked for weeks. They found his water bottle by the stream, but no other trace. It was like Marcus had simply disappeared into the forest. Now, 20 years later, Agent Martinez sat across from Tom in a small office in Missoula. Next to her was a 12-year-old boy with serious eyes and messy brown hair. "Mr. Blackwater, this is Kai Musk. He recently helped us arrest a man named James Morrison." Tom looked at the boy carefully. "What does this have to do with Marcus?" Agent Martinez opened a file folder. "Morrison has been targeting children for over 20 years. Children who feel pressured by their family's success. We found evidence that he contacted Marcus before his disappearance." She showed Tom printouts of old email messages. They were addressed to Wilderness Kid 99. Marcus's old email address that Tom had kept active all these years, hoping his son might contact him someday. "These messages are from 2003, Agent Martinez explained. Right before Marcus disappeared." Tom read the emails with shaking hands. They were exactly the kind of thing that would have appealed to 13-year-old Marcus. Messages about how smart kids often felt trapped by their parents' expectations. How sometimes the kindest thing was to disappear so parents could focus on their important work without worrying about disappointing children. Morrison told Marcus that famous park rangers like you deserved sons who were brave and skilled. Agent Martinez continued. He convinced Marcus that running away was an act of love. Tom felt sick. Marcus thought I was disappointed in him. It appears so. Morrison was very good at finding kids' weak spots and exploiting them. Kai spoke for the first time. He told me the same things about my dad, that I was holding him back from changing the world. Tom looked at this serious boy who reminded him so much of Marcus at that age. But you didn't go with him. I almost did twice. But my dad, he told me he loved me exactly as I was. And I realized that running away wouldn't solve anything. Morrison kept detailed records, Agent Martinez said. We found addresses of places where he might have taken the children. Remote locations in Alaska and northern Montana. She spread a map on the table. Red circles marked several spots in the wilderness areas where Tom had spent his whole career. We need your help, Mr. Blackwater. You know this territory better than anyone. If Marcus is still out there, you're our best chance of finding him. Tom studied the map. His hands were steady now, focused on the task. This was what he did best. Search and rescue in the Montana wilderness. This area here, he pointed to a circle near the Canadian border. There's an old mining camp from the 1940s, completely off the grid. If someone wanted to hide children, it would be perfect. How long would it take to get there? 2 days by hiking trail. 1 day if we can get a helicopter close enough. Tom traced his finger along the map, marking other possibilities. This location has an abandoned ranger station. This one has old logging cabins. Any of these could hide a group of people for years. Agent Martinez made notes. Mr. Blackwater, I have to ask, are you prepared for what we might find? It's been 20 years. Even if Marcus is alive, he might not remember his old life clearly. Tom nodded slowly. I've thought about that every day for 20 years. Even if he doesn't remember me, I need to know he's safe. Kai leaned forward. Mr. Blackwater? When I was talking to Morrison, he mentioned other kids who had been with him for a long time. Kids who helped him find new children because they believed they were rescuing them. Tom's breath caught. You think Marcus might be helping Morrison? I don't know, but Morrison was really good at making kids believe their families didn't want them. After 20 years, Kai trailed off. It's possible, Agent Martinez said gently. Some of the children we found have been so isolated from their families that they see Morrison as their real parent now. Tom stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Montana mountains stretched to the horizon. Somewhere in those peaks and valleys, his son might be alive. Might be helping Morrison hurt other families the way theirs had been hurt. When do we leave? Tom asked. Tomorrow morning we're assembling a search team. That night, Tom packed his rescue gear for the first time in months. Ropes and climbing equipment. Erdingy's medical supplies. Trail maps marked with every cabin and cave he had explored in 40 years of wilderness work. His wife's picture sat on the dresser. She had left 5 years after Marcus disappeared, unable to watch Tom destroy himself with searching. But Tom never blamed her. Some people healed by moving on. Tom healed by never giving up hope. His phone rang. Agent Martinez again. Mr. Blackwater, I wanted to let you know, we just got word that Morrison is willing to talk. He wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? Information about the missing children in exchange for a reduced sentence. He's giving us coordinates for locations where he's been hiding kids over the years. Tom felt his heart racing. Did he mention Marcus specifically? He said there's someone at the Alaska location who's been with him since 2003. Someone who helps run the operation now. The year Marcus disappeared. We're moving the search to Alaska. Agent Martinez continued. Can you be ready to leave in 6 hours? Tom was already pulling on his boots. I'll be ready. As he drove through the night toward the airport, Tom thought about all the times he had imagined finding Marcus. He had pictured joyful reunions and tearful apologies. He had dreamed of bringing his son home and rebuilding their relationship. But now he had to prepare for a different possibility. That Marcus might not want to come home. That 20 years of Morrison's manipulation might have convinced him that his family was better off without him. At the airport, Tom met the FBI team. Agent Martinez introduced him to the other searchers, mountain rescue specialists, child psychologists, and medical personnel. Mr. Blackwater, she said as they boarded the plane, I want you to meet Dr. Elena Rodriguez. She specializes in children who have been isolated from their families for long periods. Dr. Rodriguez was a small woman with kind eyes. Mr. Blackwater, I've worked with several children who were taken by Morrison. The most important thing to remember is that your son, if we find him, may not be the same person who disappeared 20 years ago. I understand. He may have built a new identity and new relationships. Coming home might feel like losing his family all over again. What should I do if we find him? Be patient. Don't try to force him to remember. Just show him that you never stopped loving him. The plane lifted off into the dark sky, carrying Tom toward a reunion he had dreamed about for 20 years. But now, instead of joy, he felt mostly fear. What if Marcus didn't remember him? What if Marcus didn't want to come home? What if 20 years of believing his family was better off without him had changed Marcus into someone Tom wouldn't recognize? As they flew over the Canadian wilderness toward Alaska, Tom stared out the window at the endless dark forests below. Somewhere down there, his son might be waiting. Or the boy who used to be his son. Tom pressed his hand against the window and whispered the same words he had said every night for 20 years. I'm coming, Marcus. I never stopped looking for you. Below them, the wilderness stretched on forever. Cold and dark and full of secrets, but Tom Blackwater had never been afraid of the wilderness, and he wasn't about to start now. The helicopter circled over the Alaskan wilderness like a giant metal bird. Below them, endless green forests rests towards snow-capped mountains. No roads, no houses, no signs of human life anywhere. Tom Blackwater pressed his face to the window, studying the landscape with expert eyes. After 40 years as a park ranger, he could read the wilderness like a book. Every valley and ridge told a story. There, he said, pointing to a clearing barely visible through the trees. That's not natural. Agent Martinez followed his gaze. What do you mean? See how the trees are arranged. Someone cut them down and replanted them to hide something underneath. The pilot, a gruff man named Jake, adjusted their flight path. I can get us close, but not too close. If there are people down there, we don't want to spook them. Through binoculars, Tom could make out the edges of buildings hidden under the tree canopy. Whoever built this place had done an excellent job of making it invisible from the air. How many structures do you count? Agent Martinez asked. Tom studied the compound carefully. At least 6 buildings. Maybe more. Looks like they're connected by cover walkways. Dr. Rodriguez, the child psychologist, leaned forward. If children have been living there for years, this would be their whole world. They might not even remember life outside. The helicopter landed in a meadow 2 miles away from the compound. Tom helped unload the equipment while FBI agents checked their weapons and communication gear. Remember, Agent Martinez addressed the team. Our priority is the safety of any children inside. We don't know how many there are or what condition they're in. Tom strapped on his pack full of wilderness survival gear. The approach is going to be tricky. Lots of thick forest and uneven ground. If someone's watching for intruders, they'll see us coming. That's why we need you, Agent Martinez said. You know how to move through wilderness without being detected. They hiked single file through the dense forest. Tom led the way, finding paths between the trees that would keep them hidden. His boots made no sound on the soft forest floor. Behind him, the FBI agents tried to move just as quietly. After an hour of careful hiking, Tom held up his hand. Everyone stopped. What is it? Agent Martinez whispered. Tom pointed ahead through the trees. Smoke. Someone's cooking lunch. They crept closer until they could see the edge of the compound. The buildings were made of dark wood and blended perfectly with the forest. Solar panels on the roofs provided electricity. A small garden grew vegetables between the structures. It looks normal, Dr. Rodriguez whispered. Like a summer camp or something. But Tom noticed things the others missed. See those windows? They all have bars on the inside. And look at the fence. A tall fence surrounded the entire compound, but it was disguised to look like natural tree growth. Only someone with Tom's trained eye would spot it. This isn't a camp, Tom said grimly. It's a prison that looks like a camp. Agent Martinez spoke quietly into a radio. Alpha team in position. We have visual on the compound. Through their binoculars, they watched the compound for signs of life. A door opened and a man stepped outside. Tall, thin, with graying hair and glasses. He looked around carefully before walking to the garden. That's Morrison, Agent Martinez confirmed, comparing him to photos from his arrest file. I thought you said he was in jail, Tom whispered. We arrested someone using Morrison's identity, but it looks like the real Morrison has been here all along. A few minutes later, children began coming outside. Tom counted 8 kids of various ages, from about 10 years old to teenagers. They moved slowly and stayed close to the buildings. Tom's heart pounded as he studied each face through his binoculars, looking for the boy who had vanished 20 years ago. Looking for Marcus. Then he saw him, a tall young man with dark hair and Tom's own green eyes. He was older now, maybe 33, but Tom would recognize his son anywhere. Marcus was helping the younger children with their garden work. He moved with quiet authority, like someone in charge, someone the kids trusted and obeyed. That's him, Tom whispered, his voice cracking. That's my son. Agent Martinez looked through her own binoculars. Are you sure? I'm sure. Tom wiped tears from his eyes. He's alive. After all these years, he's alive. But as they watched longer, Tom began to understand the horrible truth. Marcus wasn't a prisoner in this compound. He was helping run it. When one of the younger children tried to wander toward the fence, Marcus gently led him back to the garden. When Morrison called out instructions, Marcus nodded and followed them without question. He thinks he's helping them, Dr. Rodriguez said softly. Morrison has convinced him that keeping these children here is protecting them. Tom watched his son interact with the kids. Marcus was patient and kind with them. He clearly cared about their well-being, but he was also keeping them trapped in this hidden prison. What do we do now? Tom asked. We need to get closer, Agent Martinez said. Find out how many children are here and what condition they're in. They spent the rest of the day observing the compound. Tom took detailed notes about the layout, the daily routines, and the security measures. The children seemed healthy but subdued. They did their chores quietly and didn't play or laugh like normal kids. When they looked toward the forest, Marcus or Morrison would redirect their attention back to their tasks. As evening approached, all the children and adults went inside the main building. Lights came on in the windows and Tom could smell dinner cooking. They're like a family, Dr. Rodriguez observed. A very controlled, isolated family. Tom knew she was right. These children probably saw Morrison as their father figure and Marcus as their older brother. They might not even remember their real families anymore. The younger ones have probably been here since they were very small, Dr. Rodriguez continued. This compound is all they know. That night, the FBI team made camp a safe distance from the compound. Tom lay in his sleeping bag staring up at the stars, thinking about Marcus. His son was alive. That was the miracle Tom had prayed for every night for 20 years. But Marcus was also lost in a different way. Morrison had taken his son's mind and twisted it, convinced him that helping kidnap other children was somehow an act of kindness. Agent Martinez crawled over to Tom's sleeping bag. What are you thinking? I don't know how to get him back. Tom admitted, he's not a little boy anymore. He's a grown man who believes he's doing the right thing. We'll figure it out. But first, we need to get those children to safety. What if Marcus tries to stop us? Agent Martinez was quiet for a moment. That's a risk we'll have to take. Tom closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but his mind kept racing. Tomorrow, they would have to find a way into the compound. They would have to convince 8 frightened children to trust them. And they would have to face Marcus, a son who might see his own father as the enemy. Somewhere in the compound, Marcus was probably tucking the younger children into bed, reading them stories or helping with homework. Being the kind of caring older brother that made the kids feel safe and loved. Morrison had turned Tom's son into the perfect accomplice, someone who genuinely believed he was protecting children instead of helping to destroy their lives. As Tom finally drifted off to sleep, he heard an owl calling in the darkness. It reminded him of the camping trips he used to take with Marcus when his son was small. Back when they would lie under the stars and talk about their dreams for the future. Tom had dreamed of teaching Marcus everything he knew about the wilderness, about being brave and strong and independent. He never dreamed that those same qualities would be used to keep other children trapped in a hidden prison in the woods. But tomorrow, Tom would have to face his son for the first time in 20 years. And he would have to choose between saving Marcus and saving the innocent children who depended on him. In the compound, lights went out one by one until only a single window glowed in the darkness. Marcus was probably still awake, making sure all the children were safe and secure. Just like the caring, responsible boy Tom remembered. But now that caring nature had been twisted into something terrible, and Tom didn't know if it could ever be twisted back. The next morning brought thick fog that rolled through the forest like gray smoke. Tom woke before sunrise, his stomach twisted with nerves. Today they would try to rescue the children. Today he would face his son for the first time in 20 years. Agent Martinez gathered the team for a final briefing. The fog gives us good cover. We move in 2 teams. Alpha team takes the main building. Bravo team secures the perimeter and watches for anyone trying to escape. Tom studied the hand-drawn map they had made of the compound. What about Marcus? He's not gonna just let you take the children. We'll handle Marcus carefully, Dr. Rodriguez said. Remember, he's as much a victim as the children. He's just been manipulated for longer. But Tom wasn't sure it would be that simple. Marcus was a grown man now, strong and smart and completely convinced that what he was doing was right. They moved through the fog-shrouded forest like ghosts. Tom led the way, stepping carefully over volan logs and around thorny bushes. The compound appeared through the mist like something from a strange dream. No movement. No sounds except the drip of water from wet leaves. Too quiet, Tom whispered to Agent Martinez. Something's wrong. They crept closer to the main building. Through the windows, Tom could see tables set for breakfast. But no people. Agent Martinez used hand signals to position her team around the building. Then she tried the front door. Unlocked. They entered slowly, weapons ready. The inside looked like a normal house. Comfortable furniture. Children's drawings on the walls. Books on shelves. But still no people. Hello? Agent Martinez called out. This is the FBI. We're here to help. No answer. They searched room by room. Bedrooms with unmade beds. A kitchen with food still warm on the stove. A classroom with homework assignments left half-finished on desks. They left in a hurry, Tom observed, within the last hour. In the basement, they found something that made Tom's blood run cold. A tunnel entrance hidden behind a bookshelf. Fresh footprints in the dirt led down into darkness. Underground. Agent Martinez said grimly, "They have an escape route." Tom knelt down and examined the tunnel. This goes deep. And it's been used recently. All of them went this way. Dr. Rodriguez looked worried. If Morrison is moving those children through underground tunnels, they could be anywhere by now. Agent Martinez called for backup and spelunking equipment. We're going after them. 2 hours later, Tom strapped on a headlamp and checked his climbing gear. He had explored countless caves in his 40 years as a park ranger, but this felt different, more dangerous. The tunnel system might connect to old mining shafts, he told the team. This area was heavily mined in the 1940s. Some of those tunnels go for miles underground. They descended into the tunnel single file. Tom went first, followed by Agent Martinez and 2 other FBI agents. Dr. Rodriguez stayed above ground to coordinate the search effort. The tunnel was narrow and cramped. Water dripped from the ceiling, and their footsteps echoed in the darkness. Tom's headlamp beam swept back and forth, looking for signs of the children. After 20 minutes of crawling through tight spaces, the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. Tom's light revealed old mining equipment and wooden support beams that looked ready to collapse. Fresh footprints. Agent Martinez pointed to the muddy floor. They came through here. The chamber had 3 exits leading deeper underground. Tom studied each one carefully. This way, he said, pointing to the middle tunnel. The prints are deepest here. That's where they went with the most people. They followed the tunnel deeper into the earth. The air grew colder and thinner. Tom's claustrophobia started to kick in, but he forced himself to keep moving. His son was down here somewhere. Marcus and 8 innocent children who needed help. The tunnel split again and again. Soon they were lost in a maze of passages that seemed to go on forever. How do we know we're going the right way? Agent Martinez asked. Tom stopped and listened carefully. In the distance, he could hear something. Voices. Children's voices. This way, he whispered. They moved as quietly as possible through the darkness. The voices got louder. Tom could make out words now. It's okay, a man's voice was saying. We're safe down here. The bad people can't find us. Tom's heart clenched. That was Marcus's voice. Older and deeper than he remembered, but definitely his son. "When can we go back to our rooms?" a young girl asked. "Soon," Marcus replied. "Dr. Morrison just needs to make sure it's safe first." They crept closer until they could see light ahead. Tom's headlamp illuminated a larger chamber where 8 children sat in a circle around a battery-powered lantern. Marcus knelt in the center, talking to them in a calm, reassuring voice. Morrison stood at the edge of the group, holding a backpack and looking nervous. "I need to check the other tunnels." Morrison was saying to Marcus, "Keep the children calm until I get back." "Don't worry," Marcus said. "I'll take care of them." Morrison disappeared down another tunnel, leaving Marcus alone with the children. Tom's chest felt tight as he watched his son. Marcus was being so gentle with the kids, making sure they weren't scared. He clearly loved them and wanted to protect them, but he was also keeping them trapped underground in dangerous, unstable mines. Agent Martinez whispered in Tom's ear, "We move in 30 seconds. Try to get Marcus to surrender peacefully." Tom nodded, but his hands were shaking. "How do you arrest your own son? How do you explain that everything he believes is wrong?" "Now," Agent Martinez whispered. They entered the chamber with flashlights blazing. "FBI, nobody move." The children screamed and huddled together. Marcus jumped to his feet and put himself between the agents and the kids. "Stay back," Marcus shouted. "You're scaring them." Tom stepped into the light, pulling off his headlamp so Marcus could see his face. "Hello, son." Marcus stared at him in shock. For a moment, Tom saw recognition in his eyes. The same green eyes that used to look at him with love and trust. "Dad?" Marcus whispered. "Yeah, it's me. I never stopped looking for you." But then Marcus's expression hardened. "You shouldn't have come here. These children are safe with me. I'm protecting them from parents who don't understand them." "Marcus, these children have families who love them. Just like I love you." "No." Marcus shook his head violently. "Dr. Morrison explained everything. Parents like you expect too much from smart kids. We're saving them from that pressure." Tom's heart broke as he listened to his son repeat Morrison's lies. 20 years of brainwashing couldn't be undone with a simple conversation. "Marcus, please. Let these children go home to their families." "I am their family now," Marcus said firmly. "I'm the only one who truly understands what they need." Agent Martinez stepped forward with handcuffs. "Marcus Blackwater, you're under arrest for kidnapping and child endangerment." "Don't," Tom said quickly. "Let me talk to him." But it was too late. Marcus backed away from the agents, pulling the children with him toward another tunnel entrance. "We have to go deeper," he told the kids. "The bad people found us, but I know another safe place." "Marcus." "Stop," Tom called out. "Those tunnels aren't safe. The mining equipment is old and unstable." But Marcus was already leading the children into the darkness. Their voices echoed back from the tunnel as they disappeared. "He's taking them into the old copper mine," Tom told Agent Martinez. "Those tunnels haven't been maintained in decades. They could collapse at any moment. Can you guide us through safely?" Tom looked at the tunnel entrance where his son had vanished. Somewhere in that maze of dangerous passages, Marcus was leading 8 terrified children deeper underground. Away from safety. Away from their families. Away from Tom. "I can try," Tom said, "but we need to hurry. The longer they stay down there, the more dangerous it becomes." As they prepared to follow Marcus into the depths of the old mine, Tom couldn't shake the image of his son's face. Marcus truly believed he was protecting those children. He would risk his own life to keep them safe from what he saw as the cruelty of the outside world. Morrison had done his work well. He had taken Tom's loving, caring son and turned him into someone who would rather die underground than let children return to their families. "Ready?" Agent Martinez asked. Tom adjusted his headlamp and checked his climbing gear one last time. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, his son was making the biggest mistake of his life, and Tom might be the only person who could save him, or lose him forever in the depths of the earth. While Tom and the FBI team chased Marcus deeper into the mine tunnels, Agent Sarah Martinez was uncovering the truth about Dr. James Morrison. Back at the FBI field office in Anchorage, she spread Morrison's files across a conference table like pieces of a dark puzzle. The real story was even worse than they had imagined. Morrison's personal files revealed everything. His daughter Emma had been 12 years old when she died by suicide in 1995. She left behind a note that haunted Agent Martinez as she read it. "Daddy, I'm sorry I can't be as smart as you want me to be. I know you're embarrassed when I don't get A's like the other kids whose parents work at the university. Maybe you can be proud of me when I'm gone." Morrison had been a child psychologist at Stanford University. His colleagues described him as brilliant but demanding. He pushed Emma to excel in everything: school, music, sports, art. Nothing was ever good enough. After Emma's death, Morrison blamed himself. But then his grief twisted into something dangerous. He began to believe that all high-achieving parents were slowly killing their children with expectations and pressure. His therapy practice became a hunting ground. He would identify gifted children from successful families who showed signs of stress or depression. Then he would convince them that their parents would be happier without the burden of raising them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had worked with Morrison years earlier, was interviewed by phone from Alaska. "James was brilliant at reading children's emotions," she told Agent Martinez. "He could spot a child's deepest fears within minutes of meeting them." After Emma died, he used that skill to manipulate vulnerable kids. "How many children do you think he took over the years?" Agent Martinez asked. "Based on these files, maybe 40 or 50. He's been doing this for almost 30 years. The files contained detailed psychological profiles of each child Morrison had targeted. Kids like Marcus Blackwater, who felt inadequate compared to their heroic parents. Kids like Elon Musk, who felt crushed by the weight of their father's success. Morrison's method was always the same. First, he would gain the child's trust online by understanding their specific struggles. Then he would slowly convince them that running away was an act of love, freeing their parents from disappointment. But the most shocking discovery was what happened to the children after Morrison rescued them. He didn't just hide them away. He created a twisted kind of family, where the older children helped recruit and control the younger ones. Marcus wasn't just a victim, he had become Morrison's top assistant, genuinely believing he was saving other children from the same pain he had felt. Stockholm Syndrome, Dr. Rodriguez explained. After 20 years of isolation, Marcus sees Morrison as his real father. The children in the compound are his younger siblings. In his mind, Tom abandoned him, and Morrison saved him. Agent Martinez found Morrison's journal from the early days of his operation. The entries revealed a man slowly losing his grip on reality. March 15, 1998. Saved another child today. Tommy Chen, age 11. His parents wanted him to be a violin prodigy, but he just wanted to play baseball. He cried when I picked him up from school, but he'll understand someday that I freed him. September 30th, 2003. Marcus has been with us 3 years now. He's becoming an excellent helper with the younger children. He truly understands that we're protecting them from the cruelty of perfectionist parents. December 12, 2010. The children call me Father Morrison now. Marcus calls me Dad. We are a real family built on love and understanding instead of impossible expectations. The journal entries showed Morrison's complete break from reality. He genuinely believed he was rescuing children, not kidnapping them. He saw himself as a loving father, not a criminal. But the most disturbing entries were about Marcus. January 8, 2015. Marcus asked about his biological father today. I reminded him how Tom Blackwater was never satisfied with his wilderness skills. How Tom would rather spend time with his rescue work than his own son. Marcus agreed that we are his real family now. June 22, 2020. Marcus is perfect with the new children. He helps them understand that their old families didn't truly love them. He makes them feel safe and wanted. He has become everything I hoped he would be. Morrison had spent 20 years systematically destroying Marcus's memories of his real family. Every doubt, every insecurity. Marcus had felt as a 13-year-old had been fed and nurtured until it grew into a complete rejection of his past life. Agent Martinez's phone rang. It was Tom, calling from deep inside the mine tunnels. "Sarah, we need Morrison's psychological profile," Tom said, his voice crackling through the poor connection. "I can't reach Marcus. He's completely convinced that taking these kids deeper underground is protecting them." "Tom, Morrison has been programming Marcus for 20 years. You're not just fighting current brainwashing, you're fighting 2 decades of carefully crafted lies about you and his mother. What kind of lies? Agent Martinez hesitated. She didn't want to hurt Tom, but he needed to know what he was up against. Morrison told Marcus that you were embarrassed by him, that you cared more about your ranger work than your son, that you were relieved when he disappeared because it meant you didn't have to deal with a disappointing child anymore. The line was quiet for a long moment. Tom, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Tom's voice was thick with emotion. No wonder he doesn't want to come home. He thinks I never wanted him in the first place. There's more. Morrison has convinced Marcus that all the children in his care have been abandoned by parents who pretended to love them, but actually saw them as burdens. So in Marcus's mind, I'm the enemy. I'm the bad parent trying to reclaim a child I never really wanted. Exactly. To save those children, Marcus thinks he has to keep them away from you. Dr. Rodriguez took the phone. Tom, you need to understand. Marcus isn't just protecting those children from you. He's protecting them from what he believes you represent. 20 years of abandonment, disappointment, and rejection. How do I fight that? You show him that everything Morrison taught him was a lie. But it won't be easy. His entire identity is built on the belief that he's saving children from parents like you. Back in the tunnels, Tom could hear Marcus's voice echoing from somewhere ahead in the darkness. He was telling the children a story to keep them calm as they moved deeper into the dangerous mine shafts. Once upon a time, Marcus was saying, there was a group of very special children. They were so smart and talented that their parents forgot to just love them for who they were. Tom recognized the story. It was one he used to tell Marcus when his son was small, but Morrison had twisted it into something dark. In Tom's original version, the parents learned to love their children unconditionally. In Morrison's version, the children had to find a new family who would accept them. He's telling them our story, Tom whispered to Agent Martinez over the radio, but he's turned it into Morrison's propaganda. Tom, you need to be very careful. If Marcus feels cornered, he might do something desperate to protect those children. In his mind, he's their hero. As Tom crept through the narrow tunnel toward his son's voice, he thought about all the ways he had failed Marcus 20 years ago. Maybe he had been too focused on his work. Maybe he had expected too much. Maybe Morrison's lies had some truth to them. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was reaching Marcus before the unstable mine tunnels collapsed and buried them all. Ahead in the darkness, Marcus was leading 8 innocent children deeper into danger, convinced he was saving their lives. And Tom was the only person who could stop him. Even if it meant destroying everything Marcus believed about himself and his purpose in life, even if it meant breaking his son's heart all over again. The tunnel ahead branched into 3 different directions. Tom could hear Marcus's voice coming from the middle passage. But it was getting fainter. Sarah, Tom whispered into his radio. I think I know where he's taking them. Where? The deepest part of the mine. There's an old elevator shaft that goes down another 100 feet. If they get down there, we'll never get them out. Tom, those shafts haven't been maintained since the 1940s. The cables could snap at any moment. I know, but Marcus doesn't. Morrison probably told him it was the safest place to hide. Tom checked his climbing gear and started moving faster through the tunnel. Somewhere ahead, his son was about to make a decision that could kill 9 people, including himself. And the only way to stop him was to convince him that everything he believed about love, family, and protection was a lie. The old elevator shaft yawned like a black mouth in the tunnel floor. Tom knelt at the edge and shined his flashlight down into the darkness. Rusty cables disappeared into the depths, and the wooden platform hung crooked and broken far below. Marcus, Tom called down the shaft. Don't use the elevator. It's not safe. His voice echoed back from the depths, but there was no answer. Agent Martinez crawled up beside him. Are they down there? Tom listened carefully. In the distance, he could hear children's voices, scared voices asking questions, and Marcus's calm responses trying to comfort them. They're at the bottom, Tom said. 100 feet down in the old mining chamber. How did they get down there if the elevator is broken? Tom studied the shaft more carefully. Fresh rope marks on the metal framework. Marcus rappelled down with the children. One by one, he must have brought climbing gear. Can we follow them? Tom tested the old metal framework. It groaned and shifted under his weight. This whole structure could collapse any minute. But it's the only way down. Agent Martinez spoke into her radio. Base camp, we need cave rescue equipment. Heavy-duty ropes and anchoring gear. Multiple casualties possible. How long until backup arrives? Tom asked. 2 hours minimum. They have to hike in from the helicopter landing zone. From deep in the shaft, they heard a child crying. Then Marcus's voice, gentle but firm. It's okay, Emma. We're safe now. The bad people can't reach us here. Tom's heart clenched. His son was calling one of the children by his dead sister's name. The daughter Morrison had lost to suicide 30 years ago. He's completely lost in Morrison's fantasy, Agent Martinez said quietly. Tom started assembling his climbing gear. I'm going down. Tom, that's suicide. The whole shaft could collapse. Those kids don't have 2 hours, and Marcus doesn't understand the danger he's put them in. Tom anchored his rope to the least damaged part of the framework and tested it carefully. The metal groaned but held his weight. If this shaft collapses, you get out of here fast, he told Agent Martinez. Don't try to dig us out. Just seal the tunnel and protect the other children we've already rescued. Tom, promise me. Agent Martinez nodded reluctantly. Promise. Tom clipped into his rope and started descending into the darkness. The shaft walls were slick with water and decades of rust. Every few feet, he could hear chunks of metal falling into the depths below. As he got closer to the bottom, he could hear Marcus more clearly. His son was telling the children about their new life in the underground chamber. We'll be safe here forever, Marcus was saying. No one will ever hurt you or make you feel bad about yourselves again. But I miss my mommy, a young boy said. I know, Tyler. But your mommy wanted you to be perfect all the time. Here, you can just be yourself. Tom wanted to shout that it was all lies, that these children's parents loved them and were desperate to bring them home. But he forced himself to stay quiet and keep descending. The rope jerked suddenly. Above him, Tom heard the screech of bending metal. The old framework was starting to fail. He rappelled faster, racing against time. Chunks of rust and metal rained down around him. The children below started screaming as debris hit the bottom of the shaft. What's happening? Marcus called up into the darkness. The structure is collapsing. Tom shouted down. We need to get everyone out now. Tom's feet hit solid ground. He was in a large underground chamber carved out by miners 80 years ago. Old equipment lay scattered around the edges. In the center, Marcus had set up a camp with sleeping bags and battery-powered lanterns. 8 children huddled together, ranging in age from about 7 to 15. They stared at Tom with wide, frightened eyes. Marcus stood between Tom and the children, holding a climbing axe like a weapon. Stay away from them, Marcus said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were wild. I won't let you hurt these kids. Marcus, I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to save them. This mine is collapsing. You're lying. Just like you lied when you said you loved me. The words hit Tom like a physical blow. Son, I never lied about loving you. Not once. Morrison told me the truth. You were embarrassed by me. You wished you had a son who was brave and strong like you. Tom took a step closer. More debris fell from the shaft above them. Marcus, everything Morrison told you was a lie. I was never embarrassed by you. I was proud of you every single day. Then why didn't you find me? Marcus's voice cracked. Why did you give up looking? I never gave up. Not for 1 day in 20 years. I've been searching for you every single day since you disappeared. Marcus faltered for a moment. Tom could see doubt in his eyes. That's not what Morrison said. Morrison is a sick man who lost his own daughter. He's been taking other people's children to replace her. You're not his son, Marcus. You're mine. The ceiling above them groaned ominously. Dust and small rocks began falling like rain. We have to get these children out of here right now, Tom said urgently. The whole mine is gonna collapse. Marcus looked up at the crumbling ceiling, then at the terrified children behind him. But they're safe here, he said, but his voice was uncertain now. Morrison said this was the safest place. Morrison lied about everything. Son, including this place. A loud crack echoed through the chamber. Part of the ceiling near the back wall collapsed, sending the children screaming toward Tom and Marcus. The support beams are failing, Tom shouted over the noise. We have maybe 5 minutes before this whole chamber comes down. Marcus stared at the collapsed section. then at the children clinging to his legs in terror. "I don't understand," Morrison said. "Morrison told you what you needed to hear to keep you loyal." "But look around, Marcus. Does this look safe? Are these children happy?" Marcus looked at the 8 scared faces surrounding him. Kids who wanted their parents. Kids who were cold and frightened and trapped underground in a collapsing mine. "I thought I was protecting them," Marcus whispered. "You were trying to, but you can protect them better by getting them out of here alive." Another section of ceiling crashed down. Closer this time. The children were sobbing now, begging to go home. "How?" Marcus asked. "The elevator doesn't work and the shaft is collapsing." Tom pointed to a narrow passage at the far end of the chamber. "Emergency exit. It connects to the main tunnel system about 50 feet that way. We can climb out through the original entrance." "But what about Morrison? He said the outside world would hurt them." "Marcus, look at me." Tom stepped closer to his son. Morrison's daughter killed herself because he put too much pressure on her. His guilt drove him insane. He's been stealing other people's children to try to save the daughter he lost. Marcus stared at his father, 20 years of lies cracking like ice in his mind. He said you didn't want me. I wanted you more than anything in the world. When you disappeared, it broke me. Your mother and I divorced because we couldn't handle the grief. I became a shell of myself." Tears started flowing down Marcus's face. I thought you were better off without me." "Never. Not for 1 second." Tom reached out slowly and put his hand on his son's shoulder. "You are the most important thing in my life. You always have been." The ceiling groaned again. Larger chunks of rock began falling. "We have to go now," Tom said. "Help me get these kids to safety, and then we'll figure out everything else." Marcus looked at the children one more time. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "Let's take them home." Together, father and son began leading the 8 terrified children toward the emergency exit, racing against the collapse of Morrison's underground kingdom. Behind them, 20 years of lies crumbled along with the ceiling of the abandoned mine. The emergency tunnel was barely wide enough for one person to crawl through. Tom went first, using his flashlight to check for loose rocks and weak spots. Behind him, Marcus helped push the youngest children forward, while encouraging the older ones to stay calm. "Keep moving, Emma," Marcus whispered to a 7-year-old girl with blonde pigtails. "We're almost out." Tom noticed his son was still using Morrison's names for the children. 20 years of programming wouldn't disappear in one conversation, but at least Marcus was helping them escape instead of keeping them trapped. The tunnel sloped upward at a steep angle. Tom could feel fresh air flowing down from somewhere ahead, a good sign that the exit wasn't blocked. "How much further, Dad?" Marcus asked. It was the first time Marcus had called him Dad in 20 years. Tom's throat tightened devotion, but he forced himself to focus on the rescue. "Maybe another 100 yards, Tom replied, "but we need to hurry." Behind them, they could hear the underground chamber continuing to collapse. Tons of rock and timber crashed down where they had been standing just minutes before. "Tyler is scared," called out one of the older boys, a teenager named David. Tom looked back to see the youngest boy crying and refusing to crawl forward. "I want to go back," Tyler sobbed. "I want Dr. Morrison." Marcus crawled back to comfort the child. "Tyler, remember what I taught you about being brave. Sometimes being brave means doing scary things to stay safe. But Dr. Morrison said the outside world would hurt us." Tom watched his son struggle with how to answer. Marcus still believed some of Morrison's teachings, but he was beginning to see the contradictions. "Tyler," Marcus said slowly, "maybe Dr. Morrison was wrong about some things. Maybe the outside world isn't as scary as he said." It was a small step, but Tom felt hope. His son was starting to think for himself again. They crawled through the narrow tunnel for what felt like hours. The children were getting tired and scared. Some were crying. Others were asking when they could rest. "Just a little further," Tom kept saying. But privately, he was worried. The tunnel seemed longer than he remembered from the old mining maps. Then disaster struck. A rumbling sound echoed through the tunnel behind them. Not the gradual collapse they had been hearing, but something sudden and violent. "Cave in!" Tom shouted. "Everyone move faster!" They scrambled forward as dust and debris filled the air behind them. The tunnel was sealing itself shut, cutting off their escape route back to the main mine. We're trapped, Marcus said, panic creeping into his voice. No, we're not, Tom said firmly. The exit is just ahead. I can feel the air current getting stronger, but when they reached the end of the tunnel, Tom's heart sank. The exit was blocked by a wall of rocks and timber. The cave-in had sealed both ends of the passage. 8 children and 2 adults were trapped in a space barely 6 feet wide and 4 feet high. What do we do now? Marcus asked. Tom studied the rockfall carefully with his flashlight. Some of the stones looked loose. Maybe they could dig their way out. We make our own exit, Tom said. Everyone stay back while I try to move these rocks. Tom began carefully removing stones from the pile. Each rock he moved might cause others to shift and fall. It was dangerous work, but they had no choice. Marcus crawled up beside his father. Let me help. It's too dangerous. If this pile shifts wrong, it could crush us both. Dad, I've been moving rocks and building things for 20 years. I know how to do this safely. Tom looked at his son, really looked at him for the first time. Marcus wasn't the 13-year-old boy who had disappeared. He was a grown man with skills and experience. Maybe he really could help. Okay, Tom said. But we work together. If I say stop, you stop immediately. Father and son worked side by side, carefully removing rocks from the blocked exit. The children watched with wide eyes as tons of stone and timber slowly gave way to a growing hole of daylight. I can see the forest, Emma called out excitedly. The opening was still too small for the children to climb through. But Tom could see Alaska State Troopers and FBI agents on the other side. Tom, Marcus. Agent Martinez's voice echoed through the hole. Are you all right? We're all here, Tom called back. 8 children, all alive. But we need help widening this opening. We're bringing heavy equipment. Hang tight. While they waited for the rescue crews to arrive, Tom and Marcus sat with the children in the tunnel. Some kids were excited about going home. Others were scared about what would happen next. Will Dr. Morrison be angry at us? Asked David, the teenager. Marcus was quiet for a moment before answering. David, I'm starting to think Dr. Morrison hasn't been telling us the truth about a lot of things. What do you mean? Marcus looked at his father, then back at the children. I think your real families love you very much. And I think they've been looking for you just like my dad was looking for me. Tom felt a surge of pride. His son was starting to see through Morrison's lies. But what if our parents are disappointed in us for running away? Asked another girl named Sarah. Parents who really love you aren't disappointed when you come home safely, Tom said gently. They're just grateful to have you back. 2 hours later, the rescue crews had widened the opening enough for people to climb through. One by one, the children were helped out of the tunnel into the bright Alaska sunshine. Tom went last, making sure everyone else was safe first. When he finally emerged from the underground darkness, he was amazed by what he saw. The forest clearing was full of helicopters, rescue vehicles, and dozens of searchers. But what struck him most were the parents. 8 sets of mothers and fathers waited anxiously behind police barriers. When they saw their children, they ran forward with tears streaming down their faces. Tom watched David reunite with his parents. After 3 years of separation, the boy had been afraid they would be angry, but instead they held him tight and told him how much they loved him. Sarah's mother was crying so hard she could barely speak. Tyler's father picked up his 7-year-old son and spun him around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. Every reunion was the same. Pure joy, pure relief, pure love. Marcus stood beside Tom, watching the families come back together. Morrison was wrong, Marcus said quietly. These parents aren't disappointed. They're just happy their children are safe. That's what real love looks like, Tom replied. It's not about being perfect. It's about being wanted and cherished exactly as you are. Agent Martinez approached them. Marcus, we need to talk about Morrison. He escaped during the rescue operation. Do you know where he might go? Marcus thought carefully. There's another location in northern Canada, a cabin near the Yukon border. He talked about it as a backup plan if anything went wrong in Alaska. Can you help us find it? Marcus looked at his father. What do you think, Dad? Should I help them? Tom put his arm around his son's shoulders. I think you've been helping people for 20 years. The only difference now is that you'll be helping them in a way that actually works. As the helicopters prepared to fly the rescued children back to their families, Tom and Marcus stood together watching the sunset over the Alaska wilderness. They had a long road ahead of them. Marcus would need therapy to undo decades of psychological manipulation. Tom would need to learn how to be a father to a grown man instead of the 13-year-old boy he remembered. But they had something Morrison could never take away: the unbreakable bond between a father and son who fused to give up on each other. "Dad?" Marcus said as they walked toward the helicopter. "Yeah? I'm sorry it took me so long to come home." Tom stopped walking and turned to face his son. "Marcus, you were taken from me. That wasn't your fault. And now you're here. And that's all that matters." Above them, the first helicopter lifted off, carrying reunited families back to their real lives. Morrison was still out there somewhere, but his underground kingdom had fallen, and 8 children were going home to parents who loved them just as they were. 3 days after the Alaska rescue, FBI helicopters circled over the frozen wilderness of northern Canada. Below them, endless white forests stretched toward the Arctic Circle. Somewhere in that vast emptiness, Morrison was hiding with more stolen children. Tom sat in the lead helicopter next to Agent Martinez, and Marcus, his son, had volunteered to help find Morrison's backup location, even though it meant facing the man who had controlled his life for 20 years. "Are you sure about this?" Tom asked Marcus for the 3rd time. "I'm sure, Dad. Those kids need to go home to their families, just like I did." Marcus had been different since the rescue. Quieter, more thoughtful. The confident certainty that Morrison had programmed into him was cracking, replaced by doubt and questions. Dr. Rodriguez, the child psychologist, had warned them this would happen. "Deprogramming takes time," she had explained. "Marcus is essentially learning who he really is all over again." There, Marcus pointed through the helicopter window at a thin line of smoke rising from the forest. "That's the cabin. Morrison always said to keep the fire burning low so satellites couldn't spot it easily." The pilot circled the area. Through binoculars, Tom could see a small log cabin built into a hillside. It looked abandoned from above, but the smoke proved someone was inside. "How many children do you think are with him?" Agent Martinez asked. "Maybe 5 or 6, Marcus replied. "He never kept more than that at the backup locations. Too hard to control larger groups when he was alone." They landed the helicopters a mile away and hiked through knee-deep snow toward the cabin. Marcus led the way, following paths he remembered from visits years ago. "Morrison brought me here when I was 16, Marcus explained to his father as they walked. "He said it was my reward for being such a good helper with the younger kids." "What did you think about it then?" "I thought it was an adventure. A special place where we could be free from the pressure of the outside world." Marcus paused. "I can't believe I was so stupid." "You weren't stupid," Tom said firmly. "You were a child who was lied to by an adult you trusted. That's not your fault." As they got closer to the cabin, they could hear voices, children's voices, singing a song Tom recognized but couldn't quite place. Marcus stopped suddenly. "Oh no, what's wrong?" "That song. Morrison taught it to all of us. It's about how parents don't really understand their children's hearts." Tom felt sick. Even here, isolated in the Canadian wilderness, Morrison was poisoning young minds with his twisted ideas about family love. The FBI team surrounded the cabin carefully. Through the windows, they could see 6 children sitting around a fireplace. Morrison stood behind them, leading the singing like a camp counselor. But something was different about Morrison. He looked older, more frantic. His hair was wild and his clothes were dirty. The calm, controlled man from the Alaska compound was gone. "He's falling apart," Dr. Rodriguez observed. "The loss of his main operation has destabilized him." Agent Martinez used a megaphone. "James Morrison, this is the FBI. Come out with your hands up." The singing stopped. Through the window, they could see Morrison gathering the children around him protectively. "Dr. Morrison?" one of the children asked. "Who are those people?" "Bad people," Morrison replied, his voice carrying through the thin walls. "People who want to take you away from the family that loves you." Marcus stepped forward. "Let me talk to him." "Marcus, that could be dangerous. We don't know how he'll react to seeing you." "He's not gonna hurt me. I was his favorite, his success story." Marcus's voice was bitter. "Let me use that to get close to those kids." Tom didn't like it, but they were running out of options. The cabin had only one door. and Morrison could use the children as human shields if they tried to force their way in. Marcus approached the cabin slowly, his hands visible. "Dr. Morrison? It's me. It's Marcus." The door opened a crack. Morrison's face appeared, older and more haggard than Marcus remembered. "Marcus, thank goodness you're here. These bad people are trying to take our children away." "I know," Marcus said carefully. "Can I come inside? I want to help protect them." Morrison opened the door wider, and Marcus stepped into the warm cabin. The 6 children stared at him with curiosity and hope. They ranged in age from about 8 to 14. "Are you here to save us?" asked a young girl with red hair. Marcus felt his heart breaking. These children trusted Morrison completely, just like he once had. They had no idea they were prisoners. "What are your names?" Marcus asked gently. "I'm Hope," the red-haired girl said. "This is faith and charity and justice and honor and truth." Marcus realized Morrison had given them all new names related to virtues. Their real identities had been completely erased. "Those are beautiful names," Marcus said. "How long have you been here with Dr. Morrison?" "Forever," said the boy called Truth. "Dr. Morrison saved us from our mean parents who wanted us to be perfect all the time." Outside, Tom watched through the window as his son talked with the children. Marcus was being so gentle and patient, even though Tom could see the pain in his eyes. "Morrison," Marcus said carefully, "maybe we should listen to what these people outside want to say." "No." Morrison's voice was sharp. "They're here to destroy our family. They want to send these precious children back to parents who will crush their spirits." "But what if some of the parents have changed? What if they've learned to love their children better?" Morrison stared at Marcus with wild eyes. "What are you saying? Have they brainwashed you, my son?" "I'm not your son," Marcus said quietly. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Morrison stepped backward, shock and betrayal written across his face. "Of course you're my son. I saved you from that terrible father who cared more about his ranger work than about you." "My father never stopped looking for me," Marcus said, his voice getting stronger. "He spent 20 years searching. That's not the behavior of someone who didn't want me." "He's lying to you, they're all lying." Marcus looked at the 6 frightened children. "Kids, what if I told you that your real parents have been looking for you every day since you disappeared? What if they love you so much that they never gave up hope?" "That's not true," the girl called Hope said uncertainly. "Dr. Morrison said they were happy when we left." "Dr. Morrison was wrong about that. Just like he was wrong about my father." Morrison grabbed a kitchen knife and pointed it at Marcus. "Stop poisoning their minds with lies." But Marcus wasn't afraid. He had spent 20 years being controlled by this man's manipulation and threats. Now he could see Morrison for what he really was. A broken, sad person who had lost his way after losing his daughter. "Dr. Morrison," Marcus said gently, "Emma is gone. Your daughter died 30 years ago. Taking other people's children won't bring her back. These children need me." Morrison screamed, "Their parents don't understand them like I do. Their parents love them. Real love. Not the controlling kind of love that keeps people prisoner." Through the window, Tom watched his son stand up to the man who had stolen his childhood. Marcus was no longer the confused, programmed young man from the mine. He was finding his own voice, his own strength. The kitchen knife shook in Morrison's hand. The children pressed against the wall, finally starting to understand that something was very wrong. "Please," Marcus said softly, "let these children go home to their families. Let me help you get the help you need." Morrison looked around the cabin at the 6 scared faces. For a moment his expression softened, and Tom could see the grief-stricken father he had once been. I just wanted to save them," Morrison whispered. "I know, but this isn't saving them, this is hurting them and their families." Morrison's hand dropped to his side. The knife clattered to the floor. "I miss Emma so much," he sobbed. "I know you do. But Emma wouldn't want you to hurt other children to deal with your pain." Agent Martinez and her team entered the cabin carefully. Morrison didn't resist as they placed him in handcuffs. The 6 children huddled together, confused and scared. "What's gonna happen to us?" Hope asked. Marcus knelt down in front of them. "You're gonna go home to your real families. People who have been missing you and loving you this whole time." But what if Dr. Morrison was right? What if they don't want us anymore? Marcus thought about his own reunion with his father. about the tears in Tom's eyes when he said he had never stopped searching. "Trust me," Marcus said. "They want you more than anything in the world." Outside the cabin, Tom waited for his son to emerge. When Marcus finally came out, his face was streaked with tears. "How do you feel?" Tom asked. "Free," Marcus said. "For the first time in 20 years, I feel free." As the helicopters prepared to take Morrison and the rescued children back to civilization, Tom and Marcus stood together in the snow. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now, we go home, and we figure out how to be a family again." "What if I don't remember how?" Tom put his arm around his son's shoulders. "Then we'll learn together." Above them, the northern lights danced across the Arctic sky like a celebration of freedom and homecoming. Morrison's frozen kingdom of lies was finally melting away, replaced by the warm truth of families who refused to give up on love. 6 months after Morrison's arrest, Kai Musk sat in his treehouse looking at news reports on his tablet. The headlines told the story that had shocked the world. FBI rescues 14 children from decades-long kidnapping ring. Psychologists' twisted mission to save gifted children. Families reunited after years of searching, but there was one story the news didn't tell. One final truth that would break hearts around the world when it was finally revealed. Kai closed the tablet and climbed down from his treehouse. His dad was waiting in the kitchen with pancakes and fresh orange juice. "How are you feeling about today?" Elon asked. Today was the day Kai would testify at Morrison's trial. Agent Martinez had explained that his testimony was crucial, understanding how Morrison recruited children online. "Nervous," Kai admitted, "but I want to help make sure he can't hurt any more kids." On the drive to the courthouse, Kai thought about all the changes in his life since the Morrison case. He and his dad spend time together every evening now, not working on rockets or talking about Mars, but just being together, playing games, talking about school, building things in the garage. The courthouse was packed with reporters and families of the rescued children. Kai saw Marcus Blackwater sitting with his father Tom in the front row. Marcus looked different now, sadder but also more peaceful. When it was Kai's turn to testify, he walked to the witness stand with shaking hands. The courtroom was completely silent. "Kai," the prosecutor said gently, "can you tell us how Dr. Morrison first contacted you?" Kai looked out at the crowd of faces. Parents who had almost lost their children. Children who had been lost for years. Families that were still healing from Morrison's damage. "He sent me messages on my phone," Kai said quietly. "He said he understood how hard it was to have a famous dad. He made me feel like someone finally knew how I felt." "What did he want you to do?" Kai took a deep breath. This was the part that still made him feel ashamed, even though everyone told him it wasn't his fault. "He wanted me to disappear. He said my dad would be happier if he didn't have to worry about disappointing me. He said I was holding my family back from doing important things." In the gallery, Elon wiped tears from his eyes. Even though they had talked about this many times, hearing Kai say it in court still hurt. "Did you believe him?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," Kai whispered. "I really did. I felt like such a failure compared to my dad. I thought maybe Morrison was right." "What changed your mind?" Kai looked directly at his father. "My dad called me during the field trip. He told me he was proud of me exactly as I was. He said he loved me no matter what. That's when I realized Morrison was lying." The prosecutor nodded. "Kai, this is very important. Did Morrison ever mention other children to you?" "Yes. He said there were other kids like me who needed his help. Kids whose parents expected too much from them." "Did he ever ask you to help him contact these other children?" This was the question Kai had been dreading. The one that revealed the most heartbreaking truth of all. "Yes," Kai said, his voice barely audible. The courtroom gasped. Even Agent Martinez looked surprised. "Can you explain what he asked you to do?" Kai's hands were shaking now. "He said that once I came to live with him, I could help other kids who were feeling sad like I was. He said I could tell them how much happier I was after leaving my family." "Did you agree to do this?" Kai closed his eyes. "I said yes. I thought I would be helping other kids escape from families that didn't really want them." The truth hit the courtroom like a thunderbolt. Morrison hadn't just been trying to kidnap Kai. He had been trying to turn him into a recruiter, just like he had done with Marcus. "Kai," the prosecutor continued gently, Did Morrison tell you about any specific children he wanted you to contact? He gave me a list of names. Kids from schools for gifted children. Kids whose parents were famous or successful. He wanted me to make friends with them online, and then tell them about how much better my life was after I left home. Agent Martinez stood up suddenly. Your Honor, may I approach the witness? After a whispered conversation with the judge, Agent Martinez asked Kai, do you still have that list of names? Kai nodded. I saved it on my phone before I deleted Morrison's messages. I thought maybe it would help find other kids he was targeting. Agent Martinez took Kai's phone and scrolled through the saved files. Her face went pale. Your Honor, this list contains the names of 43 children from across the country. Several of these names match missing children cases from the past 5 years. The courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs. Morrison hadn't just been working alone in Alaska and Canada. He had been building a network of child recruiters across America. Marcus Blackwater stood up from his seat in the gallery. Your Honor, may I speak? Mr. Blackwater, this is highly irregular. Please, Marcus said. I need to tell the truth about my role in this. The judge allowed Marcus to approach the witness stand. He looked directly at Morrison, who sat at the defendant's table with his head in his hands. For 20 years I helped him, Marcus said, his voice carrying across the silent courtroom. I contacted children online. I told them stories about how much happier they would be away from their families. I convinced at least 15 kids to run away with Morrison. Marcus turned to face the families in the gallery. I thought I was saving them. I really believed their parents would be better off without them. I was wrong about everything. A woman in the third row stood up, tears streaming down her face. My daughter Sarah has been missing for 3 years. Did you contact her? Marcus nodded slowly. Yes. I told her that her parents' divorce was her fault because they were stressed about her grades. I convinced her that running away would save her family from more pain. The woman collapsed back into her seat, sobbing. Her husband held her as she cried. Where is she? The father asked. Where is our daughter? I don't know, Marcus admitted. Morrison moved children to different locations every few months. I only knew about the main compounds in Alaska and Canada. Agent Martinez stepped forward again. Mr. Blackwater, how many locations are we talking about? At least 6 that I knew about. Maybe more. Morrison had been building this network for 30 years. The full scope of Morrison's operation was finally becoming clear. He hadn't just kidnapped 40 or 50 children. He had taken hundreds, using older victims like Marcus to recruit newer ones. And Kai had almost become part of that network. Dr. Rodriguez, the child psychologist, was called to explain the psychological manipulation involved. Morrison was a master at identifying children's deepest insecurities. She testified. He would find kids who felt like disappointments to their parents and convince them that leaving was an act of love. How could children fall for such manipulation? The prosecutor asked. Because Morrison told them exactly what they feared was true, that they were burdens, that their families would be happier without them. When you're already feeling worthless, hearing those thoughts confirmed by an adult feels like validation. In the defendant's chair, Morrison finally looked up. His eyes were empty, like a man who had lost everything. I just wanted to save them, he said quietly. My Emma died because I pushed her too hard. I didn't want other children to suffer the same way. But you caused other children to suffer, the prosecutor replied. You separated them from families who loved them. Those families didn't love them properly. Morrison insisted. They loved them conditionally, based on achievements and success. Marcus stood up again. That's not true. I've seen the real families now. I've watched parents reunite with their children. The love is real and unconditional. Morrison stared at Marcus with a mixture of hurt and betrayal. You were my greatest success. You understood the mission better than anyone. I was your greatest victim, Marcus replied. You stole 20 years of my life and convinced me to help you steal other children's lives too. The trial lasted 3 more days. Families testified about years of searching for missing children. FBI agents described the network of hidden compounds. Child psychologists explained the long-term damage caused by Morrison's manipulation. But the most powerful testimony came from the rescued children themselves. One by one, they took the stand and described their experiences. How Morrison had convinced them their families didn't want them. How they had lived in isolated compounds, cut off from the outside world. How they had been taught to recruit other children. The girl Morrison had called Hope testified that her real name was Jessica Chen, and she had been missing for 4 years. Her parents wept as she described how much she had missed them, even though Morrison told her they were happy she was gone. When the verdict was announced, Morrison was found guilty on 47 counts of kidnapping, child endangerment, and psychological abuse. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the real heartbreaking truth was revealed in Agent Martinez's final statement to the court. Based on evidence found in Morrison's files and testimony from victims, we believe this operation affected over 200 children across 3 decades. Many are still missing. Some may be adults now who don't remember their real families. The full scope of the damage may never be known. After the trial, Kai sat with his dad in their car outside the courthouse. "I almost became one of them," Kai said quietly. "I almost helped him hurt other kids." "But you didn't," Elon replied. "When it mattered most, you chose your family. You chose the truth. What if I had gone with him that first time? What if you hadn't called me during the field trip?" Elon was quiet for a moment. "Then I would have spent the rest of my life looking for you, just like Tom Blackwater did. And eventually, I would have found you." As they drove home, Kai thought about all the children who were still missing. All the families still searching. All the pain that Morrison's twisted mission had caused. But he also thought about the families who had been reunited. About Marcus finding his way back to his father. About the truth finally coming to light. Morrison's network was broken now. No more children would be stolen by promises of escape from loving families. No more parents would go to bed wondering if their child was safe. The heartbreaking truth was finally revealed. Morrison hadn't been saving children from cruel families. He had been stealing children from families who loved them desperately. And in trying to replace his own lost daughter, he had caused hundreds of other parents to lose their children too. But love had won in the end. The kind of real, unconditional love that never gives up hope. The kind of love that searches for 20 years in the wilderness. The kind of love that brings children home. 1 year after Morrison's trial, Kai Musk stood in front of his bathroom mirror getting ready for school. But this wasn't just any ordinary Tuesday morning. Today was special for a reason that had nothing to do with rockets or Mars or changing the world. Today, Kai was starting his new job. Not a real job. He was only 13 now. But something he had chosen to do with his free team that made him feel proud in a way that good grades never had. "You ready, buddy?" his dad called from downstairs. "Almost," Kai replied, straightening his volunteer badge that read Teen Crisis Counselor, Austin Children's Help Center. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had suggested that Kai might want to help other kids who were struggling with family pressure and depression. At first, Kai wasn't sure he was ready. The memories of Morrison's manipulation still hurt sometimes. But then he met David Chen, a 12-year-old whose parents were pushing him to be a violin prodigy when all he wanted was to play soccer. David had been getting messages from someone online who understood his situation. The messages sounded exactly like the ones Morrison used to send. "There are still people out there trying to hurt kids the way Morrison hurt us," Kai had told his dad. "Maybe I can help spot them before they trick anyone else." Now 3 times a week after school, Kai volunteered at the crisis center. He talked to kids who felt overwhelmed by their parents' expectations. He helped them understand the difference between people who genuinely wanted to help and people who wanted to use their pain for bad purposes. It wasn't the future anyone had imagined for Elon Musk's son. But it was important work. Work that saved lives. At breakfast, his mom Grimes sat reading news articles on her tablet. "Look at this," she said, showing Kai a headline, "Missing Child Found After 5 Years. Credits Young Volunteers Tip." The article was about Emma Walsh, a 10-year-old who had disappeared from a camping trip in Oregon. Someone matching Morrison's description had been seen in the area, but police hadn't made the connection until Kai noticed the patterns and called Agent Martinez. Emma was home with her family now, safe and loved. "You should be proud," his mom said, kissing the top of his head. "You're making a real difference." Kai smiled, but he didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had learned from his mistakes and was trying to help others avoid making the same ones. On the drive to school, his dad was unusually quiet. "Everything okay, Dad? I was just thinking about Marcus," Elon said. "He called me last night. Marcus Blackwater had become an unexpected part of their lives over the past year. He was still working through his own healing with therapists, but he had also started helping law enforcement identify other children who might have been affected by Morrison's network. How is he doing? Better. He's been helping the FBI check Morrison's old files. They found records of 12 more children who were taken over the years. Marcus is working with their families to see if he can remember anything that might help find them. Kai nodded. Marcus carried a heavy burden of guilt for his role in Morrison's operation, even though Egerun told him he was a victim too. But he was using his knowledge to help other families find their missing children. He also said something interesting, his dad continued. He's thinking about becoming a wilderness guide for search and rescue operations, using his outdoor skills to help find missing people instead of hiding them. That sounds perfect for him. Yeah, his dad Tom is going to train him. They're finally getting to do the father-son wilderness activities they missed out on 20 years ago. At school, Kai's life was pretty normal now. He got decent grades, played on the soccer team, and had made some real friends who liked him for who he was. Not because his dad was famous. During lunch, Sarah Martinez, the girl who had been kind to him during his darkest moments, sat at his usual table. "My mom wanted me to give you this," she said, handing him an envelope. Sarah's mom was Dr. Maria Martinez, who worked with Agent Sarah Martinez, no relation at the FBI. Dr. Martinez had been studying Morrison's psychological methods to help other law enforcement agencies recognize similar predators. Kai opened the envelope and found a letter. "Dear Kai, thanks to your work at the Crisis Center, we've identified 3 more cases where adults were using Morrison's exact techniques to target vulnerable children online. All 3 operations have been shut down, and the children involved are safe. Your ability to recognize the warning signs has made you one of our most valuable resources in protecting other kids. When
You should know that
12-year-old
your courage in
Musk
speaking
stepped
up has
off the
probably
school bus
saved
at
dozens
NASA's
of
Johnson
lives.
Space Center.
Keep up the
He
important
carried more
work.
than just his
Dr.
notebook
Maria
filled with
Martinez,
rocket drawings.
FBI
Hidden in his
behavioral
behavioral
analysis
analysis
unit.
secret messages
Kai
from
folded
someone
the
who
letter
understood his
carefully
deepest fear
and put it in his
that his
backpack.
brilliant father
It
would
would
be
go in his
happier
special
without a
box at home.
disappointing son. Along with
What
all
happened
the thank you
next
letters
would
from
expose a
families whose
decades-long
children had been
conspiracy
found that
because
had
of
torn
tips he
apart
provided.
hundreds of families
After school,
and reveal a true
Kai
so
took the bus to the
heartbreaking it would
Crisis
change
Center.
how the world understood
The building was
pressure
small
placed
and
on
plain,
gifted children. But inside
But
it buzzed
first,
with activity.
Kai had to survive a field
Counselors,
trip that was never
social
supposed to end
workers,
with him coming
and
home.
volunteers worked
The yellow
together to
school
help
bus
kids
sat
and
in the
families
parking
in
lot
crisis.
of Crosswinds
Kai
Academy like a
called out
giant
Mrs.
sleeping
Peterson,
beast.
the center director.
Fog rolled across
Perfect
the Austin,
timing.
Texas morning.
We just got a call
making
about
everything
a
look
14-year-old
gray
who's
and
been
quiet.
getting suspicious
Kai
messages
Musk
online.
pressed his face against
Think
his
you could
bedroom
talk to
window
him?
on the second
Of course.
floor. Kai
His
sat
breath made
across
a
from a
small
boy named
cloud on the
Tyler,
glass.
whose parents were
Today
both
was the day
doctors.
he had been waiting
Tyler
for.
felt stupid
The
compared
field
to
trip
them
to
and had been
NASA's
contacted
Johnson
by
Space
someone
Center in
online
Houston,
who promised to
but
help
his
him
stomach
find a
felt
place
twisted
where he
up
could
like
just
a
be a
pretzel.
normal kid.
Kai,
The person
bus
says
leaves
my
in 10
parents would
minutes.
be happier
His mom
focusing on
Grimes
their
called
medical
from
research
downstairs
without worrying about
Kai
me.
grabbed his worn
Tyler
black
explained.
notebook from his desk.
Kai felt a chill
The
of
cover was
recognition.
bent, and the pages
Tyler,
were
can
filled
I
with
tell
his
you something that
drawings.
happened to me?
Rockets
For the next
shooting
hour,
toward Mars.
Kai shared his
Space
story.
stations spinning in the
Not
dark.
the dramatic parts
Cities
that
with
made the
glass
news,
domes under
but the
alien
quiet,
skies.
personal parts.
He tucked the
How he had
notebook
felt
into his
like a
backpack
disappointment.
next to his lunch.
How Morrison's
phone
messages
buzzed.
had seemed to
A text
understand
message
his
from his
pain.
dad, Elon.
How close he had
Have
come
fun at
to
NASA
making
today.
a terrible mistake.
Remember what I taught
The person
you about rocket
contacting you
engines?
isn't trying to help.
Make me proud, Kai
Kai
explained.
stared at the message.
They're trying to use your
His
feelings
dad was
to hurt you
probably
and
in
your
some
family.
important meeting
But
about
what if my
SpaceX
parents
right now.
really would be better off
Always
without
working.
me?
Have
Always
they ever
thinking
said
about
that?
the future.
No, always expecting Kai
Tyler,
to be just as smart
I
and
thought the same
focused
thing
as he
about my
was.
dad.
But
I
Kai
was
wasn't like
completely
his
wrong.
dad.
Parents don't love us
Not
because
really.
we're perfect.
He ran
They
downstairs
love us
and
because
grabbed
we're
his
theirs.
theirs.
His
By
mom
the
was
end
waiting
of their
by the door with his
conversation,
lunch bag.
Tyler had agreed to
You
show his
excited,
parents
honey?
the messages
She
and
asked,
block the person who was
smoothing down
contacting
his messy
him.
brown hair.
Another
Yeah,
family stayed
Kai
together,
said.
but his
Another
voice sounded
child
flat,
stayed
even
safe.
to himself.
That evening,
You sure
Kai
you're
sat
feeling
in his
okay?
treehouse working
You
on his
look
latest
pale.
drawing.
I'm fine,
It
Mom.
wasn't a rocket ship
But he
or
wasn't
a Mars
fine.
colony this time.
His chest
It was
felt
a picture
tight.
of the Crisis
His hands
Center,
were shaking a
with
little.
kids and families
The
walking
same
through the
feeling he
doors
got
together.
before big tests
His
or when
dad
his
climbed
dad
up
asked
the
him
ladder
about
with
his
2
grades.
mugs of hot chocolate.
Like he couldn't breathe
How was
right.
your day at the center?
The bus honked
Good,
outside.
I think I helped someone
That's
today.
your ride.
They sat in
His mom
comfortable
said.
silence for
She
a while,
kissed his
watching
forehead.
the sunset through the
Love you.
treehouse windows.
Have the best day
Kai,
ever.
can I ask you
Kai
something?
walked outside
Sure,
into the
Dad.
foggy
Do
morning.
you ever regret not
The bus
pursuing
doors
space
whooshed open.
science?
Mrs.
I know
Chen,
I used
his
to
seventh
push you in
grade
that
teacher,
direction.
smiled at him from
Kai
the top
thought
of the
about it
steps.
carefully.
Good morning, Kai.
Sometimes I wonder
Ready to
what
see
would have
some
happened
real
if I had
rockets?
been more like you.
Yes,
But
Mrs.
then I
Chen,
think
he
about
said,
kids
climbing
like
aboard.
Tyler.
The
And I
bus
know
was
I'm doing
already
exactly
half
what
full
I'm
of his
supposed to be doing.
classmates. They were
proud of
all
you,"
talking and
his
laughing.
dad said quietly.
Kai looked for an empty
Not because
seat.
you're smart or talented.
Most kids were
but
sitting
because
with
you're
their
kind
friends.
and brave and you
Kai
use your
didn't really have
experiences to help
friends.
other people.
Not
Thanks,
close ones
Dad.
anyway.
That means
He found a
everything to
seat
me.
near the middle
As the
and
stars
slid in
came
next
out
to the
over
window.
Austin, Texas.
Behind him, Kai
He could
felt
hear
something he had
Parkus and
never
Tyler
experienced
talking.
before.
I heard Kai's dad
Morrison
is worth like
entered
$200
$200
billion,
complete
Marcus whispered.
peace with who he was.
My dad says Elon
He
Musk
wasn't
is
Elon
either a
Musk's
genius or
genius
crazy.
son.
Tyler
He wasn't
replied.
the kid who almost got
Maybe both.
kidnapped.
Marcus
He
laughed.
wasn't the volunteer
Kai
who helped
slumped
catch a
lower in
criminal.
his seat.
He was just
He
Kai,
opened his notebook and
a
started
13-year-old
drawing
boy who
a
had
new
learned that the
rocket
most
design.
important thing you can do with
Sleeker
pain
than the
is
ones
use it to
his
prevent
dad
other
built.
people from hurting the
This
same
one
way.
had curved wings
Somewhere
and
in the
landing
city,
pods that looked
other
like
families
flower
were having
petals.
dinner together.
Wow, that's
Kids
really
were
good.
doing homework.
Kai looked up.
Parents were tucking
Sarah
children
Martinez
into
was
bed and
standing
telling
in the
them they
aisle
were
next to his
loved
seat.
exactly as they were.
She was one of the smartest
and somewhere
kids in
else,
class. Law enforcement
usually she
officers
sat
were
with the
using the
popular
lessons
girls.
learned from Morrison's
Thanks, Kai
network
mumbled.
to
Can
protect
I
other
sit here?
vulnerable children
Everywhere
from
else is
predators
taken.
who promised easy
Kai
answers
nodded
to
and moved
complex
his
feelings.
backpack.
Morrison
Sarah
was in
sat
prison
down
for
and looked
life,
at his drawing.
but his legacy
that for the
lived
Dawn
on in a
mission?
different
She
way
asked.
than he had entered.
Just something I made up,
Instead
Kai
of a
said.
network of stolen
It's
children,
not real or anything.
he had created a
It looks
network
real
of
to
people
me.
dedicated to keeping
You're really
families
talented.
together. Tom
Kai
and
felt
Marcus
his
Blackwater
cheeks get
were
warm.
planning a wilderness
Nobody
expedition
usually
to help
paid
search
attention
for
to his
missing
drawings.
children. Agent
Not
Martinez
even his
was
dad.
training other FBI
His dad
units
was
to
always too
recognize
busy looking at
psychological
real
manipulation
rockets.
tactics.
The bus engine
Dr.
started
Rodriguez
with a
was
loud
developing
rumble.
new therapy methods
Mrs.
for
Chen
children
stood
who had
up
been
in the
separated
front
from their
and
families.
clapped her hands.
And Kai was helping
Attention,
kids
everyone.
understand that
We're about to
feeling
leave
like
for
a
NASA's
disappointment
Johnson
didn't
Space
mean
Center.
they actually were
It's going to be a
one.
2-hour
The
drive, so
treehouse
get
creaked
comfortable.
gently in the evening
Remember
breeze.
the rules. Stay
Kai's
with your buddy.
notebook lay
Listen
open
to the
beside
tour
him,
guides,
filled
and
with
be
drawings
respectful.
of families
She
reuniting,
looked around the
children
bus.
laughing in homes
Who
where
doesn't
love was
have a buddy
unconditional.
yet?
At
A
the
few
bottom of the
hands went
page,
up,
he had written in
including
careful
Kai's.
letters, sometimes the
Mrs.
best way to
Chen
change
paired
the
him with
world is to
Marcus.
help one person
Even
at a
though
time.
Kai would rather go
It
alone.
wasn't as dramatic
Great.
as going to Mars.
Now, does everyone
but
have
it was
their
just as
permission slips
important.
and lunch money?
Maybe more
A
important.
chorus of yes.
His
Mrs.
phone buzzed
Chen
with a
filled
text
the
from
bus.
Marcus. The bus
Helped
lurched
find
forward,
another
and they
missing
were
kid
moving.
today.
A
Kai
15-year-old
watched
who's been
Austin
gone
for
fade
2
away through
years.
his window. He's going
Tall
home to his
buildings
family
became
tomorrow.
smaller houses.
Thank you for showing me what real
Houses
helping
became
looks like.
farmland.
Kai smiled and typed
The
back.
fog was starting to lift.
That's amazing.
You're a
Showing
hero,
patches
Marcus.
of blue sky.
We're all heroes
Sarah
when we
pulled
choose
out a
love
book
over
about
lies.
astronauts.
Kai put his
Are
phone
you
away
going to be an
and
astronaut
looked
like
up at
your
the
dad
stars.
wants you? E?
Somewhere up
She
there,
asked. His dad's
Kai's
rockets
stomach
were carrying
twisted again.
astronauts to the International Space
I
Station.
don't know.
Somewhere
Maybe.
down here,
What do you want
families
to
were
be?
going to sleep.
That was the
knowing
question
their children
Kai
were
hated
safe
most.
and loved.
Both kinds
Everyone
of
always
work mattered.
expected him to say
Both kinds of
astronaut or
dreams were worth
engineer or
pursuing.
rocket scientist.
But tonight, Kai was
something
exactly
big
where
and
he
important,
belonged,
like his dad, in a
I don't know,
treehouse
he
built
said
by his
again.
father's hands.
The truth was,
surrounded by
sometimes Kai
drawings
thought
of
it
the
would
work
be
that
nice
made his
to be
heart
normal.
full. To have a
Planning
dad who
tomorrow's
coached
efforts
Little
to
League
keep
instead
other
of
children
trying to get
safe.
humans to Mars.
The boy who had once felt
to
like
be
a burden
just
to his
regular
family
Kai
had become
not
someone
Elon
who helped
Musk's
other
son.
kids realize
His
they were
phone buzzed
treasures to
again.
theirs.
Another message,
And that was
but
the
not
kind
from
of
his
future
dad this
worth
time.
building.
It was
One
from a number
conversation
he
at a
didn't
time.
recognize.
One rescue
Hope you have
child
fun
at
today,
a time.
Kai. One
Remember
family
what we
at a
talked
time.
about.
That
You
was the
deserve
end
to
of
be
this
happy.
story about
Kai's
Musk
heart
and
started
the heartbreaking
beating faster.
truth behind his near
He quickly
disappearance.
deleted the message and
Story
put his
that
phone
reminds
away.
us how powerful
Sarah was
unconditional
reading her
love can
book
be,
and didn't notice.
and how
For
important
the past
it is
few
to
weeks,
truly
Kai had
listen
been
to
getting
the children
messages
in our
from
lives.
someone who understood
Where are you
him.
listening from today?
Someone who knew what
Drop
it was
a comment
like to have
and let us
parents
know
who
your
expected
location.
too much.
We love hearing from
The
our
person
global
said their
community.
name was Dr.
If this
Morrison,
story touched your heart,
and they were a
please
counselor
give this
who helped
video a
kids
thumbs
like
up.
Kai.
And
Dr.
subscribe
Morrison
to our
said
channel
that
for
smart
more
kids
compelling
often
stories
felt
that matter.
trapped by their parents'
We share
dreams.
these tales not
That
just to
sometimes
entertain,
the best thing
but
for
to
everyone
spread
was
awareness
to take
about
a
the
break,
real challenges
to go
families
somewhere
face and the
peaceful
incredible
where
strength
kids
of
could
human
just be
connection.
kids.
Most
Kai
importantly,
had never told anyone
please
about
share
the
this video
messages.
with your friends and family.
Not his mom,
Stories like
not his
Kai's
dad,
help us
not
understand
even
the
his
pressure
therapist.
children feel, and remind us that sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is simply accepting them exactly as they are. Together, we can spread kindness and awareness. One story at a time. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.